Jackson is always a favorite. Obviously, I think Jackson and Nigel. And I'll probably come in third.
Nigel, but Jackson's gonna come in second probably because Jackson won it 3 times in a row, right?
3 times in a row.
Yeah.
Insanity.
But Nigel's coming. Nigel, Nigel's Nigel.
It's definitely going to be interesting with Nigel in the field. Obviously, he's the greatest player of all time, so I think he's automatically got to have everyone's respect and probably be the favorite. That being said, you have 3-time defending champion and our mutual good friend Jackson Smylie, who's going to be, I'm sure, hungry for the 4P. He'll be a force to be reckoned with. We've got tons of other top experts in the field, so I'm expecting to probably see Nigel and Jackson near the top, but a lot of other people in the mix. It should be great to watch.
Well, I mean, Nigel. It's always everyone's pick to win. But also Jackson has won World Cup, 3 times now? So who knows, maybe he'll clinch it again.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Lunch break is complete. The players are fed. We are fed here in the commentary booth. We, of course, being Will Anderson, as I have been all along with you all out there. But for the afternoon, I am joined by top expert Jason Adalski. Jason, welcome into the booth. And what are your thoughts on what Nigel Richards has been able to accomplish so far?
Again, just a confirmation of his being the GOAT. I can't remember. Usually at nationals, it's hard for somebody to start 7-0, much less 17-0. And I am really excited to see how far this goes.
So after the lunch break, Nigel, with his perfect 17-0 record, his draw of 4 opponents, you can see Ori Swift, his opponent, a former finalist at the Scrabble Players Championship a couple years back, one of the top players in North America. And Nigel's dance card this afternoon is Ori Swift, Jackson Smylie, Joey Krafchick, and a repeat matchup with Ori in the 4th game of the day. So if he is going to continue his undefeated run through this tournament, he is going to have to earn it against arguably the 3 strongest players right now in his division alongside him. So we can let the players begin at any time. We are ready and excited to see more of the GOAT do battle. So Nigel with the first move, that gives him a little extra winning percentage, Jason, before the game even begins.
Yeah, and he's actually had some close calls here for having a spread of more than 100 per game. He's had a few close scrapes and perhaps surprisingly, seemingly against the lower seeds. So,
and he has drawn pretty unrelentingly well over the course of the tournament, I would say. And another early blank for him. There is one and only one 7-letter word, and look at how quickly it arranges itself on his rack here. The nice thing, though, Jason, is that Ori's rack quite solid as well. So even if Nigel gets his opening bingo of Cindery, which you can see there, Ori will at the very least have toasting through that eye. So it's not going to be a runaway, despite a great opening draw for Nigel here, which we are thankful for, Jason.
Yeah, good. Always a good game when both players can start with the bingo. So Nigel just doing his thing, kind of going through in his head, making sure that this is the only playable one, especially in this lexicon. No other 8s through Cindery, just toasting. I mean, it makes sense. It wouldn't really play through a consonant, and that rack doesn't go through an E. So
yeah, he's thinking about this. It's been over a minute since he has identified this play straight away. Interesting that he's taking some time to think about it, but if you look at where Cindery would score the most points, putting the Y on the double letter score, he might not want to make this really, well, I forgot he opens vertically. Of course, he's going to go ahead and do this positioning, even with the potential of, yeah, if Ori has the Q, maybe he regrets it. If he has the X and a U or another I, he might regret it. But you're getting a few extra points, and anytime your opponent doesn't have those tiles, maybe you're happy to grab 2 extra points here. That's the direction that Nigel goes with this, and I don't think Ori is going to waste any time. This is what you're likely to see. Ori Swift is a fantastic player. He is going to make his obvious plays very, very quickly, and we've seen that, Jason, be a big factor in a lot of these Nigel games on stream.
Just the time issue, or
yeah, exactly.
We never sim this position, but do you take the 2 extra points, or do you put it? Do you double the C and prevent the QI XI sort of thing?
I'm probably taking the points here just because I don't know. When you put the, Cindery, I guess, moving it up the board and placing the C here, there might be other issues with that. I'm thinking that you are placing, for example, an E in this particular spot right here, which is a very good tile to play 8-letter words, especially ending in E. So maybe sometimes you make out much better playing Cindery here, where a bingo to the E is not even close to as high scoring and opens up a triple for your opponent. So there's just so many outcomes that can occur at any given moment that it's hard to over-index on just that Q or X issue with the I. And for inability to, judge any better, I'm just taking points. Usually you would just default to points. So Nigel with a great looking set of tiles, but he plays big, which is an indicator, of course, no available bingo. Ori would have loved to see that B find its way out to open space, Jason, as Buckaroo would have gone down. That would have been pretty amazing to see.
I was thinking he might be a little tilted just because Cook doesn't play off of toasting, although you would never expect that to go down. And now, really, not a lot of great options for him here.
Yeah, great point. That toasting and cook, I guess we've got some nice culinary words here, would have gone down. One of the issues with toasting, that was Ori's only bingo, so he has to play that almost no matter what in that position. There's just no way you can't dump those low point tiles that don't do much else, get 60 points for it. But there was a possibility of Nigel having a huge counterplay in that spot. He didn't. He only plays big for, not that good of a score. But as you say, Jason, it blocked Ori's play of Cook. Ori might be getting set to play Cookie into this Y, potentially, and that would score a solid number of points. But in this particular situation, Nigel, again, potentially threatening Antrorse through the R. Cookie would block that and force him to look elsewhere for a bingo, which I think he's pretty likely to still.
Yeah. I was going to say, something tells me that Antrorse isn't going to be the only playable one here.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess an interesting question for the players would be level of confidence in the S hook here. ING words are notoriously difficult for most of us to keep straight. Which ones can take an S? It turns out this one can take an S. So you could definitely see Nigel play something there. Ori, we saw him on stream, and we got the intel that Ori actually has these little rhymes or stories that have to do with which ING words actually pluralize with an S. So he probably knows that this does take an S hook, and he can recite his nursery rhyme and figure that out. A lot of players would be somewhat more helpless to know that, Jason.
He needs to teach that to me, because that was always a huge weak point of mine. I could never remember which ING words took the S and which ones didn't, and I seem to always guess wrong. So I got to learn this story. I got to learn this story from Ori.
Well, I think there's many. I think there's like 26 stories, one for every letter, or maybe not for the X, but, stories for many of the letters. I don't know how many. So he's got a lot of them. And we're just going to have to see that Nigel's surely not going to have any such confusion. question, I guess, is now that Antros has been blocked, what bingo is he going to choose? There are a whole bunch of 7-letter words in this rack: senator, Santero, treason, atoners. He now has atoners set up. That would be wild if he played this one, Jason. Atoners and toastings, putting an A in the triple. That just seems insane that he would do that. Surely he will pivot to something else.
Yeah, my thought was Santero seems pretty obvious. You're kind of, creating that corner, really closing the top half of the board. You're not slotting any vowels, which Senator does, giving a potential ZA, etc. Spot for the Z. So Santero seemed pretty smart, but yeah, toners would not only be weird, it would be wrong, even if you have some sort of sense after cookie that your opponent is vowel heavy, which Ori was, leaving ARU. I still feel like Santero is the right one, and that's the one he's going to go with.
Yeah, he concurs, and down comes Santero. So this game was very close thanks to the bingos traded by both players, but Nigel striking back very quickly, and Ori does not look like he's in a position to strike back with a bingo, but he'll still be able to manage a decent score somewhere with the J, and we'll see what he's able to pull out here.
Toastings is being held, by the way.
Oh, all right. It's time for the rhyme recitation here. That's what Ori is likely doing. Also, this is the classic scenario, right? Who's playing this against you? Nigel Richards, right? Are you really going to challenge this? But good on Ori for holding this and trusting his gut. If this would be an amazing time for Nigel to pull a fast one, but that's not really in his repertoire of things that he does. Usually he plays it very, very safe and by the book. And if Nigel's playing something, he's pretty confident that it's valid. Only exceptions are pretty well documented. I've made videos about pretty much all 2 of them, I guess, that I'm aware of. So if he were to do it again, that would immediately be a pretty worthy topic.
Yeah, since we're on your channel, I can say that if you haven't seen Will's video about what if Nigel were evil, and yeah, if he ever takes it upon himself to kind of learn the math and the probability and the risk reward of playing deliberate phonies, heaven help us all. Where 17-0 is going to be almost routine for him, I think. But yeah, Ori, tell him the story. He must have gotten to toast at somewhere in the story, because he did release, and now he's looking at Fanjet, although I don't know if I would play it through that Ian Cindery, and there's really nowhere else for it to go.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, what's Tim saying here?
Well, Fanjet there slots the J not in exactly the right spot. It does get rid of the F and the J, which are the 2 weakest letters, but I think this is more appropriate for Ori. He's going to play Jurats. This is nice just because you get the triple letter score for the J. I am wondering any reason why not Jaunts or Juntas there to keep the R. FR strikes me as a little bit more synergistic than FN. Maybe there's a reason to keep the N that I'm not currently noticing. I think that might be a slight error otherwise, unless Ori has a great plan for that N. But thematically, I think that was the spot to play, and Ori has come up with a good play there. And a weird draw for him, I have to say.
Yeah, the old high prob FHW draw. Yeah, I was just wondering that myself. Maybe an R easier to bingo through than the N, but then again, you're keeping the other one. So not really seeing a great reason or even a great difference between Jurats, Juntas, and Jaunts.
Yeah, I think in general, the FR combination also works nicely here. You can get a fire, you can get a 4. There's a couple very easy draws that would give you a good score from this A of Santero that opens the board. As Nigel plays Irid for 10, if I'm Ori, I'm loving to see Irid for 10 as opposed to some kind of big, scoring play from the A of Santero or another bingo. I'll take that. And Nigel draws, oddly, the Q and the B and the H to his good bingo leave. So Nigel's going to be slowing down a little bit here. That gives Ori a chance to catch his breath and see if he can make something happen here. Oh, this is crazy, Jason. So Hauf, a valid word, potentially playable through either O, but
Setting up the F.
yeah, I guess you would probably play it here, but leaving the F off so that he can hook it next turn. Unfortunately, this is going to backfire hard as Nigel has Cades in that spot that's going to go down very quickly, I should think, unless there's some better thing for the queue. But I think that was a really clever idea by Ori that's just not going to work in this specific instance.
How many points do you sacrifice by putting it the other way? Because you put it the other way, and Nigel's still gonna use the S, but for not nearly as many, while also getting rid of the Q.
That's a good point. So
21 versus 26. Yeah, I guess you can't really sacrifice 5 points.
Sliding it over, you're saying. Yeah, you can't. I mean, there's only, a couple of the S's are on the board. You could easily catch Nigel without an S and have just no way to even deal with this spot at all. I think that was a great play by Ori that just happened to not work out in this specific instance, as Nigel is going to hit this very commonly seen. If you're out there and you want to learn a couple new Scrabble words that are going to boost your game up quickly, this is a great one, using the Q without a U. 65 points for Nigel here, Jason. That is not what Ori wants to see.
Yeah, somebody in chat posted, don't try to out Nigel, essentially. That was a very Nigel-esque play, and it is too bad that it didn't work out, and that Ori's draw has not really worked out either. So now this is not the kind of rack that you want to be looking at when you're trying to come back from down 100 against the GOAT.
Yeah, no question. I would say in response to the don't try to out Nigel thing that you just want to, if you want to out Nigel or whatever, however you want to say it, you just want to make your best play every turn as often as you can. And I really think that play was Ori's best play, especially at a deficit. Makes total sense. As long as Nigel does not have one of the very low number of hook tiles still remaining in the pool, that could hugely benefit Ori to make that spot. So there's no question that this was a case in my mind of absolutely right, dead on process by Ori. But in Scrabble, that is not a guarantee of great results. So I love that play on his part. Got to play aggressively, and you got to seize the advantage when it mathematically favors you, even knowing there's going to be exceptions where you might regret your choice in its outcome, but not in your process.
Yeah, I don't think we got time to sim that play because Ori played it very quickly, but I'll be stunned if that doesn't win a sim. I think it was 100% the right idea. And keep in mind, Nigel, after playing IID, kept an ID behind. It's certainly not a play that somebody's going to make with a bunch of clunky tiles, and that's the way you're probably going to get hurt the worst there. So meanwhile, Ori playing Fumir to the R in Jurats, which seems to be the right idea. You always hate blocking that R, but you want to keep within hailing distance and keep a very good leave. So I think this play is right.
Yeah, agreed. Drawing into that bag, maybe you pick up the last S or the second blank here. Ori is far from out of this game. Yes, it's true that Nigel is going to widen his lead with whatever he scores, but if Ori can get a bingo in short order, ideally, if he could figure out a way to do it without the blank and then draw the blank in some order, ooh, man, he's got decent tiles there, but it looks like maybe not the best for bingoing. Oh, look at that play. Look at this. That was gorgeous, Jason. That was a fantastic play by Nigel.
So obviously it doesn't work that way, but with the Jurat's Junta's choice, sure enough, if that N was an R, then Ori would have jeopardy from the J. But yeah, saw that play in Quackle's results and figured that Nigel would see that way to drop the H between the big and the T to make bite, and sure enough he did it, and that was certainly his best play.
Yeah, that's just so nice. Nigel had only one vowel on his rack at that point, including the X. If we go back to that turn, yeah, he would have been able to play his X right here before Effa hit the board for 38 points, but that would have left him with 5 consonants, none of which do that much, but keeping your X, especially keeping AXIL on his rack, he kept XIL with all those E's still to come. All Nigel would have needed to do is draw an E, and he's hitting Axile for a huge score. I guess the X also qualifies. So just a phenomenal play by Nigel. Amazing board vision. What can you say? That was a really great play that I do not think that many people spot. And if they do, not as fast as he did.
That's always what's so impressive. And I guess that Jurat's, the big space T was there for a while, but even then, to see it right away and to play it right away is I think one of the things that makes Nigel so incredible. I know in Albany, I suggested that maybe if under a 5-minute time limit instead of 25, that maybe Wellington becomes the best player in the world. And my co-commentator Matt Canick made it sound like I was being sacrilegious. So maybe. Well, and I don't know, do you have an opinion on that? Like if games were 5 minutes as fast as Wellington plays, but Nigel isn't exactly slow. Does Wellington become the best player in the world, or is it still Nigel?
It's a great question. I do feel that there is something about the way that Nigel generates plays that causes him to almost instantaneously, his first instinct is either the best play or the second or third best play, and he already has kind of seen the other relevant plays. There's just something about his play generation skill that is so otherworldly that I really think he would lose the least of anyone. Oddly, I feel like his biggest handicap to playing at a faster tempo of Scrabble, time control of Scrabble, would be he's just too cool of a cucumber to rush, throwing tiles onto the board the way that you kind of have to do when you're playing Blitz. That being said, Wellington is the same way, completely cool under pressure at all times, never seems very hurried at the table. So perhaps the two of them are cut from a very similar cloth. I would still lean towards Nigel in that debate, but Wellington is an incredible, fast playing, person to watch lose so little from his game when he goes into time rush mode. So in any case, Ori also managing his time pretty well here. He still has 13 minutes, even though he's had a lot of difficult decisions. And this is another difficult decision for him. Now, surely into the single digit area of winning percentage. But I said it before when we've watched Ori on stream, I can think of very few players who are better at coming up with creative comeback plans than Ori Swift. I hate feeling like I'm up by 100 points against him, and yet somehow I'm still in danger. That is a very common feeling that I have going up against Ori. Not 100% sure what I'm doing if I'm him. Is he thinking about playing op here, which would be kind of crazy? But it actually might work out decently in this specific instance.
Yeah, sorry for derailing the conversation there. It's sometimes it's okay to do on an uninteresting rack, but this is actually a quite interesting one. Do you have a preference here? I kind of like just plunking the YO along the AN of Santero, setting up your E, maybe ED stuff, stopping Nigel from from using that spot for himself. Maybe you kind of want Nigel to use that spot for himself since it opens the board. What are you seeing in this spot, Will?
Yeah, this seems very standard. Playing YO here, keeping ED on your rack. If you draw a bingo ending in ED, it's going to slot there very nicely. I feel like there's a lot of reason to like that play. That being said, I do worry quite a bit that the bingo real estate on this board is dwindling rapidly. So I feel like Ori must be thinking about that, and it would be great. And that's probably why he's thinking about playing op. Even though this looks a little bit crazy, at least you now have another threat that needs to be dealt with in addition to the D of Irid or the S hook on Irids. And then, as marginal as they are, you've got two threats on the board. Whereas if you play YO and Nigel responds with something sufficiently defensive right here, you are now looking at complete lockdown outside of maybe the U and J here. I guess the D is also open, but those bingos almost aren't what you want because you're giving up a triple in response when you hit them. So this is really tough. Ori is thinking hard about this. Another viable option could be something like apnea here, as frustrating as this would be to keep DOY. At least now you're getting some action on the board with some of these open lanes, and it's difficult for Nigel to block those spots and still score points. Another play could be die node right here. As nice as that would be to get rid of your Y and O, I don't love how the board looks after this. Even if you do bingo, it's likely to be here, which gives counterplay back to Nigel. So there are problems with everything, Jason. Not a great situation to be in if you are Ori Swift.
Yeah, there's usually problems with everything when you're down 108 against Nigel and you don't have a bingo on your rack. You were looking at Pandy. I think you I don't want to say had it set up, but I think you kind of had that play highlighted Pandy through the D and Irid. Is that looking like the best option? I mean, you hate drawing into OED, but that's another situation where I guess Nigel can probably make the right parallel play and and then the board is pretty closed. And especially we know he has the X obviously, or he doesn't. So looks like he's close to a decision though, and his time is dwindling. So part of the reason to play toasting right away when you see it is when you fall behind like this, you kind of need the time to kind of figure out your comeback strategy.
Yeah, it looks like he's considering maybe Patty instead of Pandy, which seems okay as well. I'm trying to look around and see why would you rather keep the D here. I guess maybe it's because if you play Pandy instead, I should say, you're keeping ED and your bingos actually fit, whereas it's a little bit tougher to hit a bingo with the N. Looks like Ori is going to get set to play this, and this is going to allow Nigel to bomb his X. It's possible that from Ori's perspective, he's kind of hoping that maybe his 1-2 punch back into this game is to draw the X right now and then draw the second blank or a natural bingo somewhere. This could be opening that spot by design. And Jason, it is kind of difficult for Nigel to use his X there without giving something nice back to Ori. So I wonder, will he go ahead and just play the very natural ticks here for 55 points? And oh my God, look at that draw for Ori.
Yeah, that's a GG draw. That's a good game, Nigel. I don't see, especially after, like you said, Tix was actually going to give up a lot. There's a lot of bingos that Ori could draw into, especially in the ONE leave, which would have played even hooking the E onto Axe on the triple, scoring almost 100. But now Nigel's going to play Tix. He's going to open the spot, and you basically have ONE coming off of it, drawing into EEOO, and
unreal.
Yeah. I'll be very curious as what does Quackle have his win percentage at here? It's I'm gonna guess like a 0.25%. That's pretty close.
Good
Actually.
guess. That's a
Yeah, pretty
great
close.
guess. You guessed that before I started analyzing it, and you are spot on that we're into the sub 1% here, unfortunately, for Ori. And this is just brutal, right? Like, how could you? Ori left EON and drew OOOE, which that, even with a pool that from Ori's perspective might have been a little vowel heavy, this is from, I guess, his perspective now after having drawn all those vowels. Yeah, you couldn't have expected something that terrible. And Ori, all right, Ori is basically saying, sure, why not? You've got a huge open spot. I'm gonna go for something else huge and pray that your tiles are as bad as mine. He might yet pick this up and say, God, can I really do this? This is a little bit insane, Jason. Yeah, Jason, but I guess there is a logic to it of, can I pray that Nigel has terrible tiles one time here?
Yeah, I like to call this suicide Scrabble. We're going the suicide Scrabble route, and
He's
it's
gonna
one of
pick it
those things
up.
he is
Yeah,
gonna
I
pick it up,
just
yeah.
couldn't. I couldn't see him go through with that.
Yeah, and I've commented before that Winston Churchill once said democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others, and that spread is the worst tiebreaker in Scrabble except for all the others, meaning that it's the best one, but it certainly has a lot of flaws, and certainly one of the flaws is that when you play Joe and it backfires on you, you're ruining your spread for the whole rest of the tournament. And I haven't seen exactly what Ori's spread is, compared to the rest of the field, but I think it's a little bit too early to do something like that. I think you just have to play one, take the spot, and again, I recently recommended that somebody start cutting spread when they were about to plunk down a 190 point triple to some turns later and take the lead. So I'm a little bit gun shy on saying this, but I think this is a point for Ori where you're just kind of trying to limit the damage from here.
Yeah, which hurts, right? Everybody is, I mean, this is definitely a factor too, where everybody going up against Nigel right now is trying to be the first to bring him down. So you want to go for broke if possible. Oh, look at this. Even crazier. Ori with an even crazier idea, trying to sort of distract long enough to somehow get an amazing draw. So Nigel probably would block this, and the plan there is to somehow dodge a big play down there, draw into a huge bingo here. Ideally with all the overlaps, right? You want to hit all the way through to X if you're going to hit there. Again, these are crazy plans here, and the standard play at this point is probably just to play one right here. Ori is not giving up. He's going to play Joe. He has committed it. You see Nigel's clock running. So there you go. You can't say Ori is not giving it his all, Jason.
Oh, yeah. And even though, like I said, it probably won't work, it'll probably just lead to spread destruction. My Scrabble mentor once said, if doing something is the only way you can win a game, then do it. And basically, your only way to win this game is to do something crazy. And so he's going to do something a little crazy.
So Nigel now has a couple options. I think he had been getting set to play Bloom right here, making Tay. Instead, he is going to shift over very quickly to his best option, using the Z and the B at the top of the board. Bezil for 63 points, and Ori drawing LE, yet another E, which he had to know was very possible. There's just so many E's still to come in the bag. He was going to have to sort of dodge all of those to get two consonants in a very particular arrangement. So Nigel, oh, look at this. He's going back to Bloom, keeping the Z again. That's funny because I feel like he was really close to playing up high. I'm wondering, is the Z good enough in his estimation to keep here? I mean, you keeping it here because you draw an A maybe, but it's very interesting choice.
That's exactly what I was going to say. But now you've given Ori the chance to now do a variation on the theme. Now he's going to open up the triple triple. And maybe that's why Nigel did it. Maybe he saw this coming, a potential triple opening, putting the E there. And you draw, Zoea, something like that for 69.
He now has
what he has
Azurite.
off of Joe. Goodness me.
Oh my God, there it goes. He has it. So here's the crazy thing, right? Like Azurite up here, of course, it makes all the sense to play it up there, and you're probably going up by enough that even a triple by Ori wouldn't matter. But he's going to have to actually calculate this and just see, is there any way I can lose the game if I go ahead and play Azurite for 107, but then get hit for whatever, 300 points, Jason? I made a video about that happening to you at one point. So you are an expert on still winning, almost winning games where your opponent scores a 300-point triple. Nigel's got to at least think about that, but there's really I don't think there's no threat to him that's going to allow Ori to outrun him with a triple down low. That's my instinct. What is your instinct?
Yeah, this whole game feels like it's trolled me right from the start. I mean, right from the ING word, whether it takes an S sort of thing. Like this seems like some sort of colossal joke. But yes, you pointed out that I did once almost win a practice game in which I gave up a 311-point triple. He's going to pass on Azurite. That pool, I did want to point out, that pool is really good, especially with the blank. There are certainly triples that put the V there, maybe one that puts the W there, but I can't believe he passed on Azurite for that.
That's surprising. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be fine if he plays Azurite there. Even the worst case triple doesn't really feel like it's going to threaten him that much. So I agree. I'm very surprised to see him pass up his enormous bingo, which he had spelled out on his rack. So he definitely saw it. Surprising decision. I would lean towards, perhaps that being, dare I say, a mistake by Nigel, but I think it's going to be all right for him. Of course, a good time to make a mistake like that is when you're winning by 200 points in your 18th game of a tournament in which you're 17-0.
Yeah, Alex Dings, who, by the way, since we're watching Nigel and this is kind of turning into a Nigel fest, has a great video on Nigel that is approaching 1 million views, not quite there yet. He did point out that overview is there, and naturally, I think I counted it as like in the 180s. So I still think after Azurite, overview is never going to work. I mean, then you're going to pull a bunch of good bingo stuff that may play to the D and Cindery. So I'm not going to go so far as to call that one a mistake, especially given Nigel's spread. It may be a spread hemorrhager, but given how far his spread is ahead of the rest of the field, I'm okay with that. I'm not willing to use the M word there.
So the situation after overview, if you play it as a natural, which it was in the pool as a natural, right? Azurite brings Nigel to 489. Overview brings Ori to 467, and he might draw the blank out of the bag after that, right? If you play natural overview, it is possible that Nigel could be facing a situation with 4 tiles in the bag and Ori having the second blank up by 22 points only, which that does actually seem pretty scary if you're Nigel. So maybe
I forgot to add the 50 somehow for the bingo. Yeah, it's 239.
Yeah, maybe some logic to it. Let me return to reality here where Nigel plays Ray Z and Levo is the play for Ori. He's going to play up top. That's basically a throw in the towel play, which is, I think, justified at this point. Ori has given it a couple very reasonable tries. to make something happen, and his head in his hands a little bit there. He is going to get one more crack. This is his first game with Nigel. Repeat matchups are going to begin starting next round. For those of you curious, the next round matchup for Nigel as he continues his rampage is a repeat against Jackson Smylie, who gave him everything he could handle until Jackson did not spot a key play of a 6-tile or a 5-tile overlap of a size for 94. That was where things started to go off the rails for Jackson in his first meeting with Nigel. But I think if anyone could nominate somebody to go up against Nigel and give him the absolute best battle possible, Jackson would be right at the top of the list. And he is coming at Nigel next round, Jason. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, we got a lot of talk about, can Nigel do it? Can he go 31-0? But I mean, if he gets through these 4, then there's only 10 left. He's going to be Gibsonized, with like 4 to play. Like how many players are totally out of money contention with 4 to play? So, or he does have ensnared, so he will make this a little bit more respectable, which is deserved. He played a good game, and just got victimized by the tiles a little bit there. So he's going to play ensnared. But yeah, if Nigel gets out of this session, I think you have to really, really talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the toughest challenge for him yet, for sure. Going up against the number 5, number 2, number 3, and then number 5 seed again. If he runs the table with those 4, what can you really say? And meanwhile, his previous play of Vum holding the case O. Another little bit of Nigel being Nigel. He noticed that he had the last O on his rack, and he is now going to use it with a nice hook, assuming he can confirm that Ori doesn't have anything better. It's possible that, wait, is there something like crueling? I don't think that's a word, but is there there might be something that Nigel has to block here.
Yeah, I don't see it, but Nigel being Nigel, he's got they're stopping the clock for a scoring discrepancy or something. They just restarted it. So
okay. Yeah.
That is a good question.
Oh, sorry. No, the Q is not a G. I read this as a G for a second. I apologize. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's all right.
Yeah, I just misread the tile on my screen. So nothing Nigel needs to worry about there. He can just go about his business in the end game doing his normal thing. Sorry, everybody. So yeah, looks like they were locating that final I guess, as well. Maybe already dropped it or something. But yeah, it doesn't look like Nigel will have much to worry about in this area of the board. Nothing really fits. Nothing really fits up here either, frankly. It's going to be very difficult to end something in a B. That's like the only realistic spot. So Nigel is in a relatively straightforward end game here. It's weird because it might be the case that he should not use his O hook at all if playing through this E winds up taking more points away from Ori. So is he going to pivot? It looks like the answer is yes. It's just amazing to see it every time. Never gets old, Jason.
Never gets old. He does have E now up there, but yeah, no disconnected 9s ending in Q, and apparently Ori dropped the I. That's why the clock was stopped. So other than that, we just kind of nailed these last couple of minutes. Who says we take our foot off the gas when the game's out of reach? We're still here providing A+ commentary. So
absolutely. So yeah, E now is almost certain to be Ori's play up there. But the thing about that is Nigel probably knows that. And if you see that E now going up here is going to score so nicely, by leaving AE on his rack, Nigel will be able to get a much higher scoring outplay through the V than he would have had otherwise. So it's all about the fact that he's scoring roughly as well as his plays hooking Ovum right now, and he's saving just the right tiles to counter Ori's best play with a much higher scoring outplay. That is the logic behind towing for Nigel here. Very impressive. should Ori pivot to some other play, Nigel can play ace here for a pretty solid score as well. But E now is his best play, and Nigel is going to answer it with Ave underneath. And that's going to do it for another win. Nigel's 18th in a row. This is reaching an absurd level, Jason. I can't believe how far this has gone, and he's still trucking.
Yeah, I would argue it was already at absurd, but then again, you once went 20-0 in a tournament, so
Well,
your standards are probably a little bit higher than the rest of us.
That was pretty friggin' absurd. So, he is poised to continue on past that. But again, going through Jackson, Joey Kravchik, and Ori a second time, very few people would look at that 1, 2, 3 series of matchups and say, oh yeah, I got 3 wins in the bank, right? Those are 3 extremely dangerous players, and we get the handshake here. Not sure if there's going to be too much post-morteming. I guess we can cut to the board and see what Ori has to say.
Look at some trolls toasting trout. Yeah, I had to catch it all. Yeah. I couldn't remember initially, but then I eventually summoned it. Yeah, just a bunch of O's and E's here. You can take the points, but I'm just giving up.
Did you have a 19?
Oh, this was, I thought you might, yeah. That's definitely correct.
Results? I can't do the results.
Oh, I got it. I needed your B. I had Buckaroo. It's AUR.
All right. Looks like that's it for the post-morteming. I know we usually cut once the... Oh, never mind. We usually cut once the tiles are starting to make that clacky sound. So, yeah, very minimal discussion, as is Nigel's want, and the tiles go back into their square. And I guess we just have little to do but wait for Jackson Smylie to finish his game, Jason. And that's a key game. I'm going to quickly head back to the standings and just do a little recap of who are the closest people chasing behind Nigel. Going into this game, Ori was in 3rd place with a 12-5 record. He now drops to 6 games back of Nigel in 1st place. Joey Kravchik looks to be the closest of anyone to Nigel right now. Nigel moving to 18-0. If Joey were to have won his previous game, he would be at 14.5 wins. Still 3.5 games behind Nigel, but that is the closest person right now, which is crazy to think at this only 18 rounds into the tournament that the leader is 3.5 games up on his next closest competitor.
That is insane, especially in such a good field. I did find it interesting that I was curious whether he would point out that he had a bingo, Azurite specifically. So he did ask, like, could have left that open in hindsight. But I did find that interesting. That's the first time I've ever seen Nigel ask his opponent a question during the end game. Or post-mortem.
That's true. That is true. Not a lot of questions or curiosity about rehashing the game typically coming from him. But yeah, so it is going to be Nigel versus Jackson coming up, which to me, that was the most exciting matchup possible in the field to see Jackson, who, by the way, as a refresher, Jackson Smylie has won this tournament 3 straight years. That is not supposed to happen at major tournaments. You need so much luck. So much needs to go your way to win a tournament like this. It's not supposed to happen that you win that 3 straight times. And that is a huge testament to Jackson for getting that done. But he has a huge uphill battle here. And it turns out that Joey defeated Jackson in their previous round matchup. So that puts Joey Kravchik continuing to distance himself as Nigel's closest competitor. So yes, we are going to see Jackson go up against Nigel next. And I think we will probably stick with Nigel at least one more game after that to see how Joey can fare. Can he reel Nigel back in? Would be an incredible accomplishment. He does have a day and a half-ish to do that. That would be a pretty tall order for anyone, Jason.
Yeah, especially and that if kind of accepting, even if it wasn't Nigel, ahead of you, that would be a really tall task. But good on Joey in a normal tournament. We'd be talking about how he's 14 and a half, 3.5 right now. But this isn't a normal tournament.
Yeah, without question. So let's just try to reset everything. We got Nigel, game 18. Nigel winning 497 to Ori's 359. And coming up shortly, we are going to have Jackson coming on the board, just making sure we reset all of those scores. I'm saving that over. So yeah, I think it's likely to be a couple minutes now in customary Nigel fashion. You can see he finished with 8 minutes on his clock. Oh, wait, never mind. That's not Jackson. I think maybe what we should do here now, Jason, is to just take the quickest little break just to get reset. Jackson's going to finish his game, and he will get his crack at the Master. I'm excited for it. How are you feeling?
I'm excited for it. We've already got, like I said, people talking about 31-0 predictions in the chat. Somebody said they think he'll get to 19 before he loses. So I am really excited to see where this all ends up.
So let's take that break. As I said, we'll get Jackson on the top board. Might not be a long one. We'll be right back with round. What is it now? I don't even remember. I think it's round 19. Oh, well, wait a second. Maybe we don't need a break. I think we could just roll through. I don't know, Jason. How are you feeling?
I'm good with it. All
right. Never mind then. Don't go anywhere. If you guys were about to get up, get a beverage, sit your butt back down in the chair because we are about to begin shortly. Nigel is right there, so he must be able to see. Jackson's getting set. Again, tough one for Jackson to lose to Joey in the previous round, but there is still time for him to make a run. Nigel is probably going to have to oblige everybody with a bit of a losing streak, but who knows? Maybe that's going to happen starting right now. So we'll just have to see. Some good chatters, saying how many games he's going to win. 31-0. I'm not sure would that be probably the best tournament performance of all time?
I mean, how could you beat it? I understand that the average rating might not, put it up there, but when you consider 31-0, that would be basically no doubter best one of all time for me. But so, Jackson is a really good player going first. You got to win it first.
Yeah. So. Play about to begin here. Jackson is just getting confirmation. We are all set. Players could definitely start. We're ready to rock. So not sure. They're just getting confirmation that they're good to go. Oh, Jackson's got his tiles there. All right, we are off. Ooh, that Q finds its way onto Jackson's rack right off the bat. Is he going to get some help? Well, I guess a little bit. He gets that I. So I suppose, Jason, we are likely to very quickly see our most frequent opening play of Chi, and he plays it in the Nigelian vertical style as well. And another blank on Nigel's rack. Oh my God. He is definitely drawing extremely well in addition to how well he's playing, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be 18-0. Like you've said, even Nigel loses about a quarter of his game. So by that metric, he should have lost about 4 by now. Like I said, a couple close scrapes that that maybe he loses those against higher rated opponents. But yeah, somebody did joke that that blank that Ori got, is that the first one that Nigel's opponents have had? It probably just feels like it.
Today, yes, it is in fact true. Not even hyperbole that is the first blank that an opponent of Nigel's has drawn today. So yeah, always a good sign when that happens. But look, right, like Nigel's tournament record kind of speaks for itself. He doesn't always go 18-0 and all of this sort of thing, but he's usually among the top when he's drawing normal tiles, a normal distribution. So it makes sense that if he draws that one time out of 100 or 1,000, when he draws absolutely godlike tiles, he's going to do some pretty insane things. And that is exactly what's happening here. So he's thinking about what to play. He's got bingos through the eye, no sevens. So it's just a question of which bingo through the eye he wants to play. Is there any way that he's thinking about playing Sly here? This Nigel foreshadows his intentions often. Is there any way he's going to just play Sly? It looks like he will. Wow. That's unreal, Jason. I'm stunned.
I mean, I guess it helps that your highest scoring bingo was 22 there, or 62 rather. But yeah, this has been so like you're so lucky you've gotten to see this from the start. Like I get to be part of it for this game, at least last game in this game.
That play, the engine, it sims very well. It's simming best or very close to it. It is swapping up and down with the bingos that he could have played there. It is so close. As I'm looking at the simulation, it's switching places with the first place play and second place play. I can't believe that would be the case. Let's try to come up with some rationale for it. I think the rationale is just that
look at this board. Yeah, this board right now is awful. Now somehow Nigel has a playable bingo iodated under the LY, but if he didn't, like if you're like, what rack can Jackson have that he's really going to hurt that at all?
Yeah, so it's just, I think this is a reaction to the fact that Jackson just played 2 tiles. If it was any other 2-tile play, this would make even more sense. But the range of tiles that your opponent can have and play Chi is actually kind of wide. It doesn't necessarily suggest that much strength, right? Like you could play Chi from a variety of racks. So if Nigel is putting Jackson on 5 very good tiles, he is absolutely tanking his bingo percentage on the next turn by playing Sly instead of his bingos and basically daring Jackson to try to open. And Jackson, to his credit, not taking the bait at all. He just plays Vi there, which makes total sense. Not wanting to open much. And Nigel immediately plays Dial there, which has this kind of backfired on him potentially.
In a way, yes. I think that Jackson's play there was brilliant. All right, technically I have the lead. If you want to turn the board into muck, I'll happily do that. Right behind you. Leaving a very good 5-tile leave in false there. But yeah, with Nigel, able to score well as open up another spot for himself. So I wouldn't say that it has backfired. Obviously, Vi isn't what you want to see go down in that spot when you have iodated already. But I think Nigel will be content to, if Jackson wants to continue like this, which apparently he does, because now he's going to block that spot. I think he's content. What a wonderful game of cat and mouse we're seeing to open this one. It's great.
This is so tactical for sure. And the crazy thing here, nice job by Jackson to burn his S. The S is really not as valuable as it might normally be on a board that is so constricted. Nigel had just wanted to play DYE, which would have been a very nice way to create hooks of die as well as the ivied hook holding an eye. So Nigel definitely had that play in mind. and now he can't play it because Jackson tacked on his S. Not only does that obstruct what Nigel wanted to do, it scores a boatload more points by getting the chi points as well. So nice job by Jackson, who is really shining on this very tight board. But my mind is still blown by Nigel somehow sussing out that Sly was on par with the many valid bingos. Now we see him play DAP, 28 points. I don't think this does that much to open the board, but it scores 28 on a closed board and basically dares Jackson to play something here, which might open a lane for Nigel to bingo subsequently. So this is insanely tactical, Jason. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. At what point, if you're Nigel or anybody, are you just like, I just should have plunked the bingo down on the opening turn? What was I doing?
Yeah. I don't think he really thinks that way that often, but yeah, in this situation, it's tough for Jackson. He has died set up on his rack. He's probably thinking, I can play it here. What is the way? Oh, now he's thinking about playing aided, which would put an A in the triple lane, which would definitely give Nigel some good stuff. He has, at the very least, he has something like anti-leak through that A to the triple, if that's what Jackson does. I really don't think he's going to open so aggressively. I do expect him to potentially just play died here, but that's kind of okay. A lot of the time, Nigel is happy with a play like that. Again, it yields a bingo in response. So I don't actually know if he's going to have such a play after this, Jason. That could continue the caginess. Oh, there would also be a D out in space. So that's going to help Nigel a little bit to potentially get something down.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the problem with playing the way that Jackson does, is you can't really keep it up for the whole game. Although he has delayed the bingo coming down for a while, so has that going for him. DAP also creates an S hook, which isn't much, but when there's only two S's left, with the other two having hit the board, that's not nothing. So.
Yeah, without question. So Nigel now has a weird choice here. He can play Neat Nick off of this newly created spot that Jackson made, but he's also thinking about making his blank a C and playing Anticked here, which would be kind of amazing. It feels a little bit like Anticked is much more dangerous in terms of making really potentially heavy overlaps there. But maybe Nigel is going to do that, reasoning that after Jackson's last few plays, maybe he reads him as being slightly less likely to have some of the dangerous tiles. I think Nigel is going to go with the more customary Neat Nick or Beat Nick. I guess Neat Nick is one more point. Getting the real N here instead of a blank B. Seems like he's on the verge of doing that, Jason. I think that is standard here.
I think so too. And it's coming down. But after opponent plays, DIED, it's tempting to kind of hang that eye, especially with the Q gone. But I think this is right.
Yeah, so Neat Nick, Nigel striking first. Nicely spotted by him, of course, as we have come to expect. And Jackson drawing the WU combination. Not ideal, but this game is still way too close for him to lose heart. I guess we're going to find out if Nigel is going to pull another one of those blanks and continue to run that counter up even higher. But if not, well, we see a couple weird letters from him. Oh, it's getting worse. All right, well, there's a Collins bingo in there, everybody, but that is not going to play in this game. So I don't even know where it would play if you were allowed to play the word rogue here. But yeah, Jackson on turn, he's going to want to get rid of either the U or W, if not both, Jason.
Yeah, also shout out to the chat. We do have more than 1,000 people watching this game right now, so that is so awesome to see.
Yeah, very gratifying. We had that in a morning session, and I would say for me personally, not to derail too much from the game action, but that's been a goal of mine for about 5 years that we've achieved today. So I really, really appreciate all 1,000 of you plus in the chat watching along with us today. It is extremely meaningful for me. Again, 5+ years in the making. Thank you very much, everybody. It means so much to have you aboard watching Scrabble with us today.
So yeah, getting back to the game, my first thought was just wood off of the D and died, but I think that gets hit too often. I think it's just gnaw through the N in Neatnik. Wood isn't bad per se, but like I said, I probably would have just slapped that down without thinking about it too much. But especially on this board, I think that that gnaw is way better.
Yeah, agreed. That does seem standard. Jackson is just looking carefully for any idea that might be a little bit better. Oh, look at this. He's playing lunge. Could that feels weird to me. This feels like either it's a miss or it's Jackson wanting to put a good tile in this square long term, feeling like he might need it to execute a comeback better. If you put the W there, that is not a good bingo tile. In my opinion, the game is way too close to make a move like that, and maybe just a little bit of, blindness to the G being able to go there, not a usual word form to start with GN. Looks like a mistake to me, but I would defer, I should say, to Jackson that maybe he's thinking long term.
Yeah, and I liked Vi, I liked Foz, but when you make plays like that, then you get in this position when Nigel gets the first bingo down. Now you're doing something like sacrificing equity to play lunge just to throw an E out in space. So I tend to agree with you on just about everything you said, and that it feels like a mistake, but I too would defer to Jackson. Meanwhile, Nigel has played Urger, just blowing up the rack and taking the points. And now Jackson going to come back with above, which will open the board even further.
Yeah, this is a nice play, very volatile play. This is another weird one. We actually saw it, Jason. I think this morning we saw Jason Lee have the word whatnots available, which I don't think mirrors English usage of the word whatnot in any way. I've never heard anybody talk about multiple whatnots, but that is a valid word. And in the same vein, you can have multiple aboves. Yes, it's true. It's a little crazy. And look at that. The blank on an opponent's rack. That's what we like to see, folks. So a big draw for Jackson. Yes, it comes with some clunk along with it. I guess not really. He drew Z blank. He had the W on his rack already. So the draw was good. He's going to have to work through some of that. But just WZ up here waiting for a lot of points for Jackson. He might be striking next with a bingo, despite the fact, Jason, that Nigel has the valid Manioka on his rack, but it is homeless on this board.
Yeah, very interesting turn of events here. Non-Nigel people would probably kick themselves for not throwing that R open where they could play Macaroni or Harmonica or Marrow Cane. Or be frustrated that the simple 7 doesn't go down. So looks like Quackle kind of wants Nigel to kind of just fish off the A there, but looks like Sim is coming up with some, in my opinion, more reasonable options of playing Oka or Oma off of the Ka in Neatnik.
Yeah, the problem with just fishing an A is that while you do hit a fair number of bingos out of the bag, if you fish one here, you don't have any hooks to this word. So your only hook on your rack would be the M, and a lot of the things you draw are not going to fit the M in the correct spot for you to actually play the 7-letter words. So rather than fish just that one tile, when you are thinking about making that fish, which in Scrabble parlance is playing a very low number of tiles in an effort to draw a bingo as fast as possible, it's really important to actually look at the board and try to figure out, are the words that I draw actually going to play? And Nigel has correctly determined that the answer is no, they're not. I'm not going to fish just 1A. I'm going to try to grab a few more points with Oka. Makes a lot of sense. And I really expect to see Jackson put these 2 high point letters in the upper corner very quickly, Jason. No need to waste time here.
Agreed, and he's got him in his hand, and he's going to do it.
45 points up there. That has to be among the worst case scenarios for that spot. I have to imagine a U sitting out in space like that. Couldn't be many more points on offer up there. So nice job to Jackson, and a critical draw for him. Ooh, that looks pretty good. So I feel like he should be able to bingo here. The key, though, is, does he have a bingo to the C? I do see one in Orgastic. That could be a huge, huge blow in this game if that spot remains open.
Yeah, that was the one I saw.
Oh, he has
Just about
Orgiast. He has Orgiast 2 and aboves. So there was no stopping Jackson there. So either he was getting his big aboves bingo, which Nigel just blocked with his play of Fa, or now he's going to get a huge play into the Sea of Oka. So this is maybe the most promising situation that we've seen yet for any Nigel opponent. Poised to score a boatload of points. Jackson just has to hold his nerve and find his 90-point play, and there it goes, his only playable bingo, wasting very little time. Jason, nicely done.
Yeah, especially given what Nigel has. Like I feel like I don't want to get too far out on the limb, but I think this could be it. I really do, especially given the board makeup. He's going to be ahead by 63. I mean,
yeah, but
Nigel
look at Nigel. He's got mutinied into the D.
Mutinied into the D. I'm sorry. Yep.
So he's going to come back and equalize the game. So a lot hinges on this draw from Jackson. Make no mistake, Jackson is still in great position, because after the play of mutinied, if Jackson draws well, me get my chicken scratch off the screen, he could easily come back with a very nice overlapping play, but he does not have a vowel that goes on top of the T. Jackson only drawing 2 O's, which is going to make it difficult for him to overlap. I guess, that's not true. He can go across this way, but actually he doesn't have that many. I think the best he could do is like BOT, which isn't that great. So Nigel is going to escape a little bit here, Jason, without getting whacked on the top row.
Yeah, BOT leaving corn looks pretty good to me. I don't think that you have a better option.
You could throw the other O in along with it and play boot, as I'm seeing. Boot, boon, things of that nature, getting 5 more points. So that seems to be the worst that Jackson can do. It could have been so much worse than that in other scenarios here. So this is going to be very, very exciting. I do like the fact that Jackson has 15 minutes on his clock. He's managed his time very well. He's not going to necessarily make a mistake right now because of time pressure, and that's going to stand him in very good stead, as he has tempo here, sort of our term in Scrabble for when the game is tied, which player is leaping out ahead on their turn. That's the player with tempo. That is Jackson right now.
Yeah, vowel heavy pool too, so I can see why Sim is liking boot or boon or even boor instead of bot.
Yeah, so he is sure to suss that out. In fact, there is another issue where you could play boot and boon, but there are 3 ends unseen. So prioritizing playing boon over boot. These are the tiny little nuances that players at this level are attuned to, trying to minimize the odds that you duplicate your tile. Let's see, if Jackson draws an N, he's going to be very happy that he made this choice. It would harmonize very well with the rest of his tiles. Let's see what he draws another R. Well, he didn't really have a choice. Boer, I guess, was you wouldn't necessarily play your R there with your option to play the N or the T. So a little bit of hindsight there. But Nigel now on turn. He is going to Wait a second. Wait a second. That's not good. Is it? Oh, it is. Is that a new word? Why don't I recognize this? Okay, I should know not to doubt Nigel.
That's okay.
Is
No,
that a new word?
the plural of hetman is hetmans, but I don't remember hetman. But then again, you know your sixes a lot better than
I would have
do, so.
probably challenged that out of just like
Even against Nigel.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. I usually just trust my gut on stuff, so I probably would have challenged that. It must be new in some of the recent updates because I feel like I've never seen that word in my life, which is a good wake-up call to me. So, all right, never mind. Nice play by Nigel. It is valid. Sorry to give everybody a scare and give you a scare, Jason. That is a huge scoring play for Nigel, but not a great draw for him. And Jackson going now with a 14-point deficit. Hard to say which of the two players is a favorite in this game. It's very close. It's probably very close to 50-50. And if either player can get a bingo down, that could be game over. The S's looming so large with this spot available. I wonder, is either player going to get that bingo down that could be decisive?
Yeah, what a fascinating game right from the start with Nigel somehow making a leave inference with QI, which I have never done. I feel like we didn't give the slide play enough attention that it deserved, but other plays happen after that. But yeah, Hetman has two plurals apparently, Hetmans and Hetmen. So
I knew
so
that's
there we
why
go.
I knew. Yeah, I knew Hetmans. That's why I know it because it's such a weird looking word. But in any case, learn something new every day. So
I thought we
all
might
right.
see actor, kill the S
Yeah.
spot since you don't have it. Makes
Right.
sense.
Jackson seemed to be seriously considering playing Torch here, which that would have been reasonable as well, but it would not have done anything about this S hook, which Jackson does not have one. So maybe he's wanting to address it here. Of course, there's still plenty of opportunities and a weird draw here for Jackson. No S's, but an X. X could be useful for scoring, but I continue to be a little wary. Let me get the scores updated. Sorry, this game is so close that it's important that you are all seeing the right score. Jackson up to 331 right now. Narrow lead. So here we go. Nigel playing O at the top of the board. That's about as good as he can do in terms of points. This does give back some counterplay, though, Jason, if Jackson wants to play something underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the X, not a great board for it. Obviously, with Nigel without it, he's never going to do anything to open up a spot for it. But even just AX, EX, OX along the BO of above is going to be 40, which on this board is a lot. Nigel has found one of the two S's. So yeah, this is I feel like this is going to, the person in the lead is going to be the person who last made a play. It's been that way for the last 4 turns, I think, and I think this will continue for a while. I think we're going to see a very close endgame, and this has been a great game throughout, and I think it's going to be a great game right down to the finish.
Yeah, the crazy things that are lurking here from Jackson's perspective: 2 S's, also a J, a Y. There are some good scoring tiles. You've got this spot now to worry about. Of course, there's always the threat of bingos at any time, but it looks like Jackson doesn't want to allow Nigel to be able to underlap this spot. Seems like he's very seriously considering playing tell for 26 up there. He also seems clearly to be considering something like extol down here, which would have the merit of opening another good scoring spot. So there would be 2 on the board, and he would potentially get his choice of one of the 2. Very scary. All of these plays scare me a little bit. Jason. I don't know which way to go. Jackson going with tell here feels like a natural impulse to deny Nigel that spot.
Yeah, HRX such a great leave with this foul heavy pool as well. You're also kind of ending the game a little bit faster. Again, if we're going to get in this pattern of whoever played last has the lead, all sorts of vowels that you can 2 A's, 1 E, 1 O to hit that spot, which Sim actually wanted him to, did not totally discard him doing this turn and drawing into HLLRT. Again, that open O down there, and so many vowels to draw. So 13-point lead, and what's Nigel going to do in response?
Well, he has soy set up on his rack. He's probably looking into a pool that has an X in it and thinking to himself, man, I don't know if I want to allow Jackson to be able to hit an X for an easy score there. He may also be thinking the S is nowhere near as valuable as it was with Oka's now obstructed by the T. So he might be about to play soy, which would leave one tile in the bag and create a very difficult situation for Jackson to navigate with an X that no longer has as good scoring potential on the resulting board. I do feel like with the J and X and H together, it's possible that if Jackson can dodge bingos, he might be able to squeak this one out by scoring well with both of those tiles. But very tricky situation here for Nigel. Nobody is better at navigating situations like this than him.
Yeah, those when you got two clunky tiles on your X, those one in the bag pre-end games are always, they can be a little rough because you have to get rid of one. Which one do you get rid of? How do you put that clunky tile in a spot where Nigel can't really use it? Can you make sure that you don't get stuck with the other one, which with the X is a little bit less of a concern. So, I do like leaving one in the bag here. It's a really tricky pre-end game for sure.
Yeah, it seems like he's very seriously considering soy. I suppose another...
Probably just wanting to kill the easy X spot as well. I should have.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So that's that. You can do that though without using the S, right? If you want, you can just play A or OY in this spot, whichever you prefer. He does have the last O, so he can't duplicate it. It is worth considering. Is it possible that playing the A here is better because there is one lurking and you would rather not have two of them? If you know there's no O's that can duplicate, it's a tough, you'd have to suss that one out. Also, you get a bunch more points, which in a game this close is very important. You might win a few more end games by grabbing 10 plus extra points right now by cashing your S. The end game timing element of it is also critical. With 4 tiles in the bag, you have to try to figure out what would be ideal. Do I want to leave 1 or 2 tiles in the bag? 2 in the bag end games are very difficult, but 1 in the bag end games at the absolute upper level of human skill, you could potentially see somebody like Jackson, who is as good as Jackson is. You could see him be able to come up with a more accurate pre-end game play with just 1 in the bag as opposed to 2. So much to consider here. It feels like Nigel is spending way more time than usual sussing out what to do on this tricky situation, and soy is the play for Nigel, leaving 1 tile in the bag. And there is a good chance that with the P and N lurking, it is possible that Nigel could draw, and the S as well. He could draw, and it looks like he did not draw Puritans, but he does have insurant to the T of actor. So if Jackson does not find a way to block that, this could be another win for Nigel. The nice thing, Jason, for Jackson here is that the X playing in this spot would block it, or Haji, which he has lined up. Either of those could get the job done for him.
Yeah, and that always helps when you look at the 8 unseen tiles and you're like, okay, he has insurant, he has Puritans. Like, how do I block in your most logical play? Playing across row 12 there with the X, kills them both. Just be careful that you don't throw something out in space that might give him something. So yeah, that last play was really tricky, and it was so complicated and so much to consider. I'm fine with that, with saying whatever Nigel chose there was correct. So I had no strong opinion.
Yeah, brutal situation, a lot to consider. I guess there weren't that many candidate options to consider. If you really, really want to block the X over there in the corner, it seems like it makes a ton of sense. I guess Nigel probably also thinking about what happens if I draw the X after I block it. That's another consideration there. So there's just a ton going on there. Nigel sitting there hoping that the T of actor remains open, but Jackson doing his score sheet work over there. It does feel like the play of Haji, which I'm sure he's considering playing right here. He is looking here. He's thinking, what is the first thing I need to calculate, right? I want to figure out what's going to happen if all these individual tiles are in the bag. A, I, N, P, R, S, U. The first thing he should be looking at, because it's the most likely scenario, is the N. What happens if the N is in the bag? That's the likeliest thing to happen. The answer, Puritans, is available for Nigel. So I think there's just no way he's going to let that T open. And then once he gets to the P being in the bag, he's going to know Insurant is available as well. So he'll know the T needs to be blocked here. I am fully expecting him to come to that conclusion and find a way to block it that also doesn't give anything back, which is a scary thing to calculate under pressure. But this is the first time, Jason, we've seen a Nigel opponent have this much time to come up with the answer late in the game.
Yeah, and Haji does win 100% of Endgame. So looking like this could be it. Looking like 18 will be as far as Nigel could get. Yeah, like I said, those pre-end games with multiple clunky tiles on your rack are interesting from the one perspective. They're arguably more interesting from the other perspective, where you want to leave tiles that may be bingo, and yet what happens if you draw one of the clunky tiles? What happens if you draw both? I recently lost a friendly game where in a situation like that, where the J and the X was unseen and there was one tile in the bag, it was the J, and I lost in part because of that. So very interesting game. Nigel with the bingo that almost certainly will not hit the board. I think Jackson may be considering Aji, maybe keeping the H for later. You've got the X that goes down there. He'll see that the P is the only high scoring tile. We know that it's the one tile that's in the bag. But just checking and like you said, actually having the time to think through a very complicated pre-end game.
Here comes Haji. This looks like it is going to be a winner, blocking Insurant, leaving the X as well. Another beautiful thing about this play, setting up an X for him in the end game. Not sure we mentioned that. Maybe you did, and I zoned out on you because I'm staring at the board trying to figure out what to do. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a very tall order here in the end game for Nigel to stop and a nice X play from coming down, and also score enough points as well to pull it off. So, wow, this is it. Nigel getting 18 games in until defending champion Jackson Smylie playing a fantastic game. Really only one or two moves that weren't absolutely dead on optimal, but most importantly, he got the key moves of the game 100% accurate, and Nigel quickly finds the engine evaluated best choice of Huns here, Jason. I don't think it will ever get old. There's actually only one winning play for Jackson after this play. Score is now 387 to 389 for Nigel. It's going to update in a second. One winning play and one only for Jackson. Looks like he spotted it.
Yeah, I did point out that Crackle reported 100% winning percentage after Aji, but I didn't realize with the P in the bag that there's only one win after Huns. So obviously, and like you said, it never gets old watching Nigel play optimal end games, so quickly, including doing unconventional stuff like burning the S right away, et cetera, et cetera. it's been fun to watch it from afar for a while, and then to get to commentate these two games. Not sure if we're going to stick with Nigel now that he's lost, or switch divisions, or what we're going to do. But these two games were certainly quite the delight.
Yeah, my hunch is with Joey Krafchick coming up next, Nigel's closest challenger. I think I'm going to want to show that game before potentially dipping back into the Collins division with our last game of the day. That would be my first instinct. Of course, we're going to talk between the two of us and behind the scenes about how realistic that is, or maybe we just ride it out in this division and make it up on a subsequent day. We will find out. Look at this beautiful outplay by Nigel as well. 23 points for him. Sorry, let me get this score updated, everybody. The final score after Expo for 29, pushing Jackson up to 416, and Rain for 23, pushing Nigel up to 412, collecting 2 points from Jackson's unplayed R, for a final score of 416 to 414. Absolutely epic win for Jackson Smylie here, Jason. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, an incredible game. Like I said, literally from the start with QI followed by Sly, which again, I don't feel like we gave it. I feel like you could do a video on the Sly play alone. Josh Sokol, by the way, is in chat saying that play is 100% wrong.
Well, it's a really fun play, and I hesitate to call anything so creative. Not sure I want to just jump to that conclusion. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this game is somewhat of a cautionary tale of why would you not want to do a play like that. It took Nigel till his fourth turn of the game to get a bingo down. Maybe a little bit of overestimating how strong Jackson's leave could be after his opening play of Chi, which does turn out to be the best play with such a wide variety of racks. You wouldn't want to assume he is so strong after that you need to play Sly necessarily. But I'm just astonished at that choice, and the fact that you can easily get it to be the top computer evaluated play if you just tweak a little bit. I don't think it would have been on most players' radar.
Oh, no. I'm just picking between Sedulity and Steadily and all the others and deciding which 62 I want. So, yeah, so there is something to be said, even if it is, perhaps a mistake, a quote unquote mistake, for Nigel to even consider it, much less play it.
Yeah, so there you go. Nigel's not going 31-0. Even he is capable of being beat. You can see how well Jackson played to get that done. He held his nerve over the course of several critical decisions. Very, very impressed with his play on the whole. So the rematch between these two going Jackson's way, Nigel dropping his very first game. So yeah, very, very exciting stuff here. I think what we need to do now is to cut to a break and figure out what we're going to do for the next two games. We do have a banger of a matchup between Nigel and his closest follower in the standings, Joey Krafchick. We also have to look at what the games might be if we dip back into Collins. Again, we've borrowed a lot of time from the Collins division to bring you Nigel's undefeated surge through the tournament. So we're going to figure that out, cut to a quick break, and we're going to come back in just a couple of minutes with the last two rounds of the day from the 2025 World Cup. Okay, folks, we're back from break. Now we are seeing not a round shape after the 18 near Nigel Richards' name. That's something new that you haven't seen yet on the stream, everybody. But something that's not new is that we are going to stick with Nigel for one more game here as he goes up against his closest competitor in the standings, Joey Krafchick. Joey did just lose his previous game. He's having a great day today overall, though, 5-1 before finally losing to Ori Swift, or rather, I guess 4-1. If I could count correctly, yeah, 4-1. We've only done 5 games, so Joey at 3.5 games behind Nigel. Nigel with 18 wins, and Joey, you see that tie looming large in the standings. And as I have been for the previous 2 games, Jason Adolski alongside me again. Jason, another treat, another Nigel game for us.
Yeah, and you look at 3.5 games is not undoable. Even against Nigel, and like you said, that tie is going to be like a win for Joey. As good as Nigel's spread is, it's not something that he has to worry about, and that tie also kind of gives you some freedom to do a little bit of what we saw from Ori Swift in the first game on stream this morning, where it allows you to kind of take crazy risks, and even if it hurts your spread, it doesn't really matter because there's not going to be anybody, not that many people with ties that you're concerned about having the same record as. So, meanwhile, Nigel's opening rack. The old classic go second rack. You need the A, you need the I, but going first, there are somehow no 7s here. So the classic play short or play long. And Will, you know Nigel a lot better than I do. What do you expect to see here?
Well, yes, Holt lined up on the rack here, which this is very difficult to suss out. As you said, Jason, completely accurate in terms of the type of play this is. Do you play Hotel or Hellet? Do you play Hun, H-O-N, or N-O-H? You have to think about the fact that you have an S on your rack if you are Nigel. So if you're going to play something, it would be nice for it to take an S hook, realizing that you should be able to capitalize on that. I don't know. It looks like he's now considering playing Nth, which might be the worst possible play to play for his S, but maybe the defense of that makes up for it, because you're going to get a different board to work with on your next turn than what Joey will have, right? So you're going to see this be played. A lot of the time you'll see an underlap or an overlap, and that might give you a place to hook with your S. In this particular case, we would see thacking go down for an absolutely gargantuan score for Joey Krafchick. So Joey drawing one of those blanks, a lot of which have been finding their way onto Nigel's rack. Joey is probably sitting there thinking, oh man, it would take a very weird play for Nigel to not give me some kind of a bingo in response here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what that would be. I actually thought Nth. I forgot about thacking and thought that Nth might actually stop it, but instead it's just going to make it, as you like to say, hit like a truck. But I don't even know what kind of play you could make to stop a bingo from coming down, especially considering he has the 7s hacking and Kachina.
Exactly. Yeah, those 7s are a pretty critical nuance here, but I expect Joey to waste very little time until he plays his 113-point response play here. It is, I do say it a lot. I guess I really like trucks, because this is going to hit incredibly hard. There it is. It finds its way onto the rack, and 113 points are about to be scored by Joey here.
Yeah, and Nigel probably doesn't have a lot of comeback experience this this tournament when you start 18-0 and your average spread is more than 100 per game. So he'll get some comeback practice here.
Yes, and not a great draw by Nigel either with his nicely balanced ELOS. He draws duplicated E's and O's, which is, I don't think he's going to have a bingo in response here, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah,
that
it's just obsolete.
Obsolete, the only 8, so no B available. One of the B's finds its way onto Joey's rack, in fact, but the Q and the X as well. Let me get Joey's score. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so while Will helps to catch up the score here, looks like it's going to be a fishing play from Nigel. Looks like there's really not much else he can do.
Yeah, just playing 2 O's. Is it really something like O right here with Oho? I mean, the bad thing now is you've got that S. You would love it if this did take an S, but it does not. So I guess you still have all of these floaters to go for. If you balance your rack, you've got a really good chance of drawing an 8-letter bingo through the tiles of thacking, but it would feel so much nicer to have an S hook here, Jason.
Yeah, and when Joey plays Ox on top of thacking there for quite a big score, it's the old Yogi Berra line. It's starting to get late early here now. Obviously, it's Nigel, and there's still a long way to go, but that's just gonna kind of constrict the board even more and kind of make life difficult.
Just Chi, the play here by Joey. I thought there might be some temptation to use the X first and grab a few extra points just playing Ox right here. Nice thing about that also is you a little bit more obstruct the C of thacking with that play, which you love to do, holding the lead, but at the same time, getting rid of the Q while you can. Definitely a nice idea for him here. Back over to Nigel.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I didn't really look at the sim results for that. We didn't really have time to sim it, but I would have thought that OX was pretty standard, although, after you play OX, that Q could certainly become a headache. So I can certainly understand just wanting to get rid of it, right away before it becomes a problem. And the X is a very flexible tile that you'll probably be scoring pretty well with that at some point. So I get it. Although I feel like I would play Ox in that situation. I don't know how you feel about it, Will.
That's the play I was expecting there for sure. But then again, we've seen some varying approaches to the Q over the course of the tournament. Some players, Nigel included, willing to be very patient with it. But I certainly like to get rid of it if I have a reasonable choice that does so, because I do feel like the downside risk of having that Q can last for a number of turns afterwards.
So meanwhile, Nigel still with nothing. At least this way, when he plays Bay, he has kind of given himself an S front hook, making Ho into Shu. Does kind of close off the C in thacking there, but seems like a reasonable play.
Yeah, agreed. So this play of Bay right here, I do feel like Nigel is happy with, because now you do get that S hook back onto the board. So the S there now is not as useless as it was thanks to the nth non-hook. He's got an S play, and now, of course, he is not drawn well enough. It does not look like he's going to be able to play a 7 with ending in S right now. Still looking through some of the other letters. I'm not seeing it just yet. So let me make sure I get Nigel's score updated again. He's got 45 points to Joey's 134. And we'll just see, is Joey going to play Goxes and Snob? That would be a pretty bold blocking play on his part, but it's actually very solid. If he pulls the trigger on that, I'm going to be very impressed. It doesn't feel like it should be that good of a play, but the computer engine seems to love it, Jason.
Yeah, I somehow saw that he was creating the S hook with Ho, and I missed that he was creating the S hook with Knob, which is the more fruitful one. Yeah, again, like hard to believe that that this is the best play, and hard to believe that the player who can play it is has not only seen it, but is going to pull the trigger and is actually going to do so rather quickly. And by saying best play, Smog, also an option that that Quackle was considering making bays. But yeah, Gox's is actually not as bad as it seems at first glance.
Wow. But look at I can't even imagine what Joey is going to think after Nigel's next play, Jason. What are the odds of Gox's giving your opponent a double through the X? But that is exactly what has happened. My mind is blown, Jason.
Yeah, Saxatile missed that one too. So you make the quote unquote right play, and then Nigel's going to play for 110 and kind of weasel his way back in this game.
I mean, more than weasel his way back, it's going to be basically even on the scoreboard, which is astounding to think that after a huge opening bingo from Joey, there is a serious tilt risk here, in my opinion. You feel like, oh man, I got thacking. I'm controlling the board. I've blocked the good terminal S hook. And you're so right, Jason. There is another one with shoe, but I do think the snob one is easier to hit as it is a terminal hook. Joey's reaction to this will go a long way. He has to just stay cool. Yes, this is very unfortunate that Nigel is doing this. Yeah, you can see, you can see his reaction. How could you not react like that? But hey, he's got a good play coming back if he wants it, of something like jab. And he can continue on here. Yeah, he's shaking his head. Hard not to feel for him a little bit right here, Jason.
I think Nigel is the only human being alive who wouldn't tilt a little bit at that or wouldn't react in some way. But yeah, like you said, just got to get back at it. Remind yourself you're still ahead. You're on turn. After going second, you've got the J. You've got one of the last two S's. Just keep making your best play and go from there. And yeah, it hurts in the moment, but Joey's a good enough player that it looks like he's all set to play jab there, which certainly seems like it's the right play.
Yeah, agreed for sure. Nigel with a 3R draw out of the bag, so that is definitely going to slow him down a little bit. After Joey plays jab, which it does look like he's seriously considering, his leave is not the best. At least it's balanced, and at least it has an S in it. So down comes jab, 37 points for Joey Kravchik here. That is definitely a very solid play by him. And Nigel looks like he's thinking about playing Gru through the E of Saxatile, which will only score 16. So it gives Joey a chance. Can he draw something fantastic? He does have an I. Maybe there's a way for him to draw some stuff forming Chi. Not quite, but definitely still going to be some good plays in there. Something like Viney could be good. We'll see what's available. Not sure if there's anything here either. It would be great to be able to overlap all the way to the triple there. Not sure what is on offer for him, Jason.
Yeah, it grew an incredibly defensive play. If you don't have an eye, what do you even do on this board after Grew? So it certainly seems to be the right play, and Nigel looked like he was about to put it down, then stopped.
Oh yeah, I already gave him his points. Trying to stay on top of
it.
All right.
Yeah, you were. He ended up going that route, so you're good.
Yes.
You were just ahead of the game.
Fair enough. So yeah, Joey has to be happy to see that. Kind of a weak 16-point play. If I'm Joey, I'm feeling pretty good about being up by 23 here, especially if I just play Viney here, obstructing the ability to play into this G of thacking. Maybe Nigel has an eye and wants to play down there. So I feel pretty good about this board being very weak. Good to, score 30 points, 29 points for Viney, and leave an extremely difficult board for Nigel to work with. I'm feeling good if I'm Joey.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't know the I don't know if it's an alternate spelling of Maven, but Mayvin is an option. But yeah, this is super super nice and super defensive to throw the V up there. You're going to be ahead by 50 on what is really a messy board, and it looks like he's going to do it.
Yeah, Maven, just putting the A right here is just instantly creating by far the easiest scoring spot available on the board. There's no great need to do that when you can score a very comparable number of points and just open so little back. And that is what Joey elects to do. I completely agree with his choice. And that really is going to create a horrendous board. Nigel with no vowels that overlap the G. So what that means is the only spot that feels like it's good to score points is inaccessible to him right here, unfortunately for him. So he's going to be in a tough spot. We could see, I don't know, he's probably going to find a play that feels good to him to make somewhere or other. Oh, look at that. Oh, man, that's so nice. That's a great play by him, Jason. I hadn't spotted that yet.
I was trying to look for stuff that he could do through the JO there, but I hadn't seen that yet. So very nice indeed. Does not really help the board much, but at least you're scoring and you're leaving well, and now you're throwing this mess of a board back on Joey's plate.
Yeah, so we've got ourselves another nice close game, and Joey definitely up to the challenge. Joey likes to play the defensive style of play. He's comfortable with it, sacrificing points when he needs to create that ironclad board position. So I think he is not bothered by the state of this board at all. Only question here is, do you try, if you're Joey, to open the board with something like LO? This would be kind of crazy. You've got an S, only one S and one blank unseen to you. You might do this if you are really comfortable setting up an S hook. I think Joey can play something like Imago or Amigo in this spot. This has an even nicer upside of, if I draw the other S, now I can hold on to my L and play vinyl on a subsequent turn and really make things difficult on Nigel. So I feel like I'm liking either Amigo or Imago, Jason. Play patiently, keep the board nice and closed, force Nigel to open and try to pounce.
Yeah, I was just about to say how I was going to play low, but you sold me on playing Amigo Imago up there. You also keep the L for potential use there later. So yeah, I was going to play low, but you've sold me on dumping those vowels, especially in a vowel heavy pool, 26 vowels, 29 consonants unseen from Joey's perspective. So yeah, I like the Amigo Imago idea.
We'll see what he elects to do. It's definitely stylistically in keeping with what I expect from him. If he were to play off that L with vinyl, that would be a pretty aggressive play. And I just feel like he wants to keep this board so nice and closed. Not because his opponent is Nigel Richards, but just because the situation really feels so good. Normally, being up by a small number of points, you're thinking to yourself, oh boy, this is not comfortable. But it is very board dependent on how comfortable you feel with a 17-point lead plus whatever you're going to score. So Amigo is going to score 18. He'll be up 35 after that. That feels like a pretty big number to be up on such a closed board.
Absolutely. And yeah, vinyl is very nice because it sets up your S. There's only two S's on the board, but there is a blank and an S unseen. So, you do have to recognize that you could be setting that up for Nigel as well. He's also, kind of experienced the, I thought I was making a defensive play and then Nigel slapped down Saxatile for 110. So, sometimes you kind of have, a little mini PTSD from stuff like that, where you don't want to open the board unless you have to, especially since you're the one in the lead. So yeah, Joey hasn't really shuffled his tiles or kind of, telegraphed what he's thinking. So I'm curious as to which route he ends up going here.
Fortunately for him, he's played a bunch of his early moves so quickly that he has plenty of time to think this through. And there we go. He's lined up Imago that's going to play through this G, as we pointed out. I think this makes a ton of sense for him here. Again, if he's able to maybe draw the second blank. We know that the other S is on Nigel's rack, so there is a huge risk of if Joey plays this L too soon, he could be setting up a huge hook that Nigel would be so happy to see hit the board. But I really feel that Joey is only going to make that play if he feels absolutely forced, or if he feels like his advantage in doing so is completely ironclad. So he has it in his back pocket if he needs it. I don't think he's going to need it just yet.
Yeah, like he could maybe be tempted to play Elf next turn. Drawing into stem in a vowel heavy pool is a really good idea. Meanwhile, Nigel with the old reserved etc. through an E, but nothing on this very closed board. So looks like the play per Quackle is to play Cred off of the C and Thacking, hooking the R to make Hoer, and that's what he did.
Yeah, Cred for 21, setting up his S, also setting up the O hook for Credo. No O on Joey's rack, so he's probably thinking to himself, I wish I had an O so I could address this without using my S, but he can address it simply by playing parallel. Any number of ways of doing that with his F. It looks like he might be getting set to play Felt here. That's definitely a little safer than playing Fem in the same spot. That would normally be the more natural play, but Jason, that hooks with an E, which you definitely do not want to allow Nigel to do here.
Yeah, I still feel like Fem is right drawing into Lest, but he's chosen Felt. Felt is more defensive. I don't know how defensive you want to be if you can be aggressive drawing into Lest, but I will trust that Joey's doing the right thing here.
That's fair. I mean, the upside of the much better bingo leave is considerable, so there is that to think about. But yeah, it just feels like I would be scared to do that. I don't know. There is a psychological element to it of, there's really only two hooks to Felt, the S and the Y. Whereas there were so many E's out where pretty much so many bingos that don't contain an S or a Y are going to go down after Fem that would not go down after this. Admittedly, there is now an open T. You could definitely see bingos go down through the T after Felt that would not have gone down after Fem. So have to consider that as well. And Nigel is getting set to play Via for 25, getting rid of his V, which was the weakest letter on his rack. And both players with an S, this has now kind of become a race to who can hit that spot faster. Joey does not have a bingo from his rack, and it doesn't look like Nigel is going to have one either. So this is going to be a very exciting battle down the stretch of this game, Jason. I feel like it's going to be kind of tough for the Felt's hook to get blocked here via natural play.
Yeah, and I guess Nigel having the V there kind of underscores your point. Like you play FEM drawing into a super bingo prone leave, and then Nigel, hooks it with the puts the V out in space, maybe even puts it on the double there, putting the whole thing on a double word, and you look pretty silly. So, and yeah, we have after that Via play, like you said, created a board configuration where it is almost impossible for that for that S hook to be blocked, especially in such a close game. Now, obviously, Joey could do something like go UM there, although that S hooks itself. So like you said, under normal play, it looks like it will simply be a race to who gets the bingo ending in S the fastest. And they're both close, but I don't believe that either one is there.
It feels like every candidate play for Joey terrifies me here. Whether it's EMU right here, you could do this setting up your S, but this feels terrifying. If Nigel happens to have one, he gets first crack at it before you do. Could you play up here, creating maybe the best leave available to you right here, but now you've opened a triple needlessly to Nigel. What exactly are you supposed to do here? You can't play MU right here necessarily, or maybe, I mean, it's just too, you could do this taking the risk that Nigel maybe doesn't have a consonant that plays on top of the U, but even then emo is just too scary to open up. I'm having a hard time finding a play that's not triggering my anxiety, Jason.
That's such a great way to put it. And thank you for saying EMU instead of just pronouncing it like the bird, as I went to Eastern Michigan University. So I associate EMU with spelling it out instead of the bird. Our mascot should be the emus, by the way. Huge missed opportunity. Jack Overby in chat has pointed out, do you just plunk the M on top of the other M in Imago and set up the U? The problem is there's no U's on this board and there's 3 unseen. So that's probably a little bit too risky, but yeah, like you said, there's nothing really good here.
That is really intriguing. I like this idea. I wish that I could look at Nigel's previous play and know for sure that if he had a U in hand, he would have played something else than this. Is there any way we can do that, right? Like, let's say TU was a word. It's not, but if it was, you would for sure play VAU instead, unless you have multiple I's. But Joey is going to make the read, and he's going to play just MM, setting up his U, and he draws another one, which is brutal. On the one hand, it means Nigel doesn't have that U, which is a good thing. But on the other, that is not what he wants whatsoever here. He wanted to draw anything that would give him a bingo. An A gives him austere. A lot of the consonants, retunes, reputes, all kinds of stuff would have been playable up there, and he just whiffed on it, Jason. Brutal.
That is your classic good news, bad news. You know, good news, only 2 U's left for Nigel to have. Bad news is that now I don't have much. Although Uterus kind of killing that top half of the board if Nigel doesn't go there or create something, some other spot himself, seems like a pretty good idea.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if Nigel is going to feel compelled to play something like Foe just to obstruct a little bit the U-hook here. He might go that route just because there really isn't anything that compelling for him to play somewhere else. And again, he has the S here that he can continue to be patient and try to hit a bingo here, or I guess Schuer if he draws one like that. So a lot of possibilities for him. He has his DO set up here. Not sure if he's going to consider playing DOE instead of FOE. Doesn't feel like there's that compelling of a reason to do that, but maybe he knows something we don't. It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, apparently I misattributed the MM idea, so I can't scroll up in chat and see who said it, but apologize. No, he's just going to leave it, and he's going to draw into his
Wow.
draw into his best bingo lead. I feel like this is a setup that I'm not seeing here.
Yeah, this is crazy I don't know. It doesn't feel like it sets anything up. Joey's going to quickly play Uterus. No need to wait.
Yeah, I feel like if he had blocked it, you just play Uterus the other way. You are kind of giving up potential for, 5s or 6s ending in P. But other than that, it's not really that dangerous, especially with the H's and the M's out.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely think that is true. Joey playing this with haste. It is seemingly the best play. The one thing that worries me about it, though, is you're giving up that S, and now Nigel can feel really emboldened to just keep this open in perpetuity. This is going to be tough to block. The only real way that I'm seeing to block it in this lexicon would be to put an L here, which that just makes your problem even worse. So not sure where we're going to go from here, frankly, as Nigel has Pew set up on his rack. I have no idea where that's going to go outside of maybe Spew up here, but I think maybe that's okay. Only scoring 13 points, but continuing to drive towards a potential bingo here that Joey is going to be very hard pressed to block at this point, having given up his S.
Yeah, your other problem with is what we just saw. You're drawing into a vowel heavy pool with just an E, and until that Z showed up as the final tile, that this rack was looking really, really rough. Now it's just mostly rough.
So another non-bingo draw here for Nigel. Fawners, not a valid word. No I for Inferno or anything like that. It's funny too, because for Joey, this board is so horrendous. There's no room to do anything. It seems like the best play that Joey can make, and maybe the only play worth considering, Jason, is a doze through the DO on the board. But man, I would not want to be placing an E out in open space with a blank still coming and Nigel making short plays. He's gonna go ahead and do it. This is brave, so brave. You could get just whacked after this so often. There even is a Collins bingo through that E if Nigel sees it. And Frozen, I believe, is valid, but he cannot play it in this game, which has to be a little tilting for anyone in the world that is not Nigel.
So wild that he's going to get away with this, and Nigel's almost certainly going to block that S hook to Felt in the process. So yeah, just absolutely wild. What are the odds that we'd have this low scoring a game after Saxatile? Like each player plays 110-point bingo in their first 3-4 turns, and yet we've kind of I don't want to say devolved, but the game has kind of moved into this sort of slog. With such reluctance to open up the board until that last play, and even that was born mostly out of desperation and not having anything else to do.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm seeing it mentioned in the chat that an upside of a doze is that it does work towards blocking this S hook. If you were to induce Nigel to play a longer word through this E, it would block his own S hook. That is why I think Nigel is about to play Fen instead. That really protects the Felt's hook incredibly well. It doesn't seem possible to easily block that hook at this point now, unless you have some extension to fend that I'm not thinking about. But now that S hook is just going to sit there for a while. It's hard to see it getting blocked. And Joey has to continue to maneuver on this incredibly constricted board. Just look, Jason, how much of the board is essentially inaccessible unless you have an S. Now, with an S, things start to open up. But without one, and Joey does not have one, this board is brutal to play on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, okay, at least the good news from Joey's perspective is you don't have to worry about blocking. You're up by 48. You just try to outrun the bingo. But what do you do on this board? I mean, what do you do on this board right now? It looks like all he can really do is exchange, although that's not particularly appetizing, obviously.
Yeah, exchanging feels a little bit like a concession here, because if I'm Joey, I would love to do something that makes a more constricted board for Nigel to work on. I'd love to block something. There's just no way of doing that. He's going to go ahead and play Za. That doesn't block anything. There is no way to block anything, but at least it gets 13 extra points. Could have been tempting to exchange a lot of tiles there just in the off chance that Nigel does not have the blank. You might be able to draw it, but Joey drew the Y on a one-tile pick. That could allow him to play something with Felty if he can pull it off in a defensive way. Might not be possible to do because you're giving back a triple a lot of the time. But the fact that he just drew one of the hooks to Felt has to be one of the better draws he could have gotten that isn't an S or a blank, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking at the unseen pool, it's like, yeah, if you were to rate the one-tile draws, it probably goes blank and then Y, so it's probably the second best out of the however many tiles there were in the bag, 16, 17. Exchanging everything and going for the blank was suggested, and actually seems like a pretty valid option given the circumstances. Now, the way Nigel's playing, you might even put him on blank S here. Although I guess if he has blank S, he probably would have bingoed by now off of Felt, even with the F. So, and the game of cat and mouse continues.
Yeah, Nigel just playing goo, potentially realizing that there are more vowels than consonants in the bag and that he is somewhat likely to draw them. And there we go. Finally, Nigel has found his way to a bingo. He can play antlers and felts or sternal or saltern and shoer. So Nigel is going to bingo on this turn now. Let me give him his points for his play. And ooh, interesting choice. So ply is the play by Joey. I think he's gonna get away with taking the extra points. And Nigel has a bunch of bingos. I don't believe any of them end in a vowel right here. So that is a huge swing in Joey's favor. He goes up 79 points in this game. Nigel's going to bingo for 68, and Joey's rack is terrible and does not contain the second blank, Jason.
Yeah, Define get away with it, though, because like you said, he didn't find the second blank, and he drew the third eye to go with the two that he left. So even after Salter, assuming that we see Saltern, he'll play Unite through the N, hooking the P and ply to make PE. But yeah, there's going to be a very good chance. We got 11 in the bag right now. So 64% chance that after Nigel plays this, he will draw the blank. I'll actually go with Sternal instead of Saltern, which is more defensive. So we're shaping up for our second interesting endgame in a row here.
Yeah, this is insane. Now Nigel is going to draw to within 11 points of Joey. Is he going to pull that blank out of the bag? That's the huge X factor right here. If he does, that creates an absolutely brutal situation for Joey. Let's see what Nigel draws. Hasn't picked it yet. Is it the last?
In Utah, it has to come down pretty fast.
Oh my God. But it, I think this might lose, right? Isn't there something dredgers?
Deterged
Dredgers. I mean, this is crazy. Joey plays that so fast. I just wonder if you have to play that. There's just so many things. Dredgers, gardened, deterged, and Nigel is gonna win this game after everything. The last tile that he revealed, the blank, that makes everything possible. Joey emptying the bag within U-tile. He's got so much time left. I would have thought about it a little bit more before going for that. But yeah.
What's your 3-tile or fewer play?
Maybe there is nothing, but I would have considered just playing Uni potentially that scores 19 and continues to, maybe you have a chance of drawing counter bingo after Nigel's bingo. Would have been worth consideration, but maybe in U-tile just is the play there. I just would have thought about it for a long time before going ahead and making that in that position. Instead, Nigel bingoing out. This is a heartbreaker for Joey K. I really, feel for him here as he was in firm control for most of the game.
Yeah, I think Uni's actually probably right because it also kills the R. It kind of makes him go through the E in sternal, which as it turns out he could have done. Does allow him to maybe fish off one, but I don't even see where you fish off one to create an opening on this board. So certainly understand you just empty the bag and if he has it, he has it, gets rid of 2 of your 3 eyes and all of your vowels. But yeah, I do see what you're saying, that he played that with 6:57 on his clock and perhaps a little more analysis there might have been justified.
Yeah, it could be that in U-tile is just correct and you want to go for the blank as hard as possible. Hope Nigel doesn't have it. Hope maybe he has too many vowels to actually bingo with it some of the time. You can see Joey drew IIOU out of the bag after in U-tile or some combination of those letters. I don't know. Not sure if the players are talking about this or if you want to try to catch any of it. I doubt Nigel has much to say.
I drew the Y on the 1-tile play.
Well, there we go. Not too much post-morteming happening there. Joey sharing that he drew the Y, and Nigel responding by squaring the tiles, as is his wont. So there you go.
I love how Nigel just doesn't care that Joey drew the Y on the one tile draw. They're just absolutely nothing.
Yeah, just a crazy game. There have been so many of them today. We've really been spoiled by just epic game after epic game. Only a couple of them have been blowouts. I guess a little more discussion happening that we're missing here, unfortunately.
I feel like discussion involves two people, though. Like that was just more Joey. That was just more Joey talking. Oh, he did. Okay, I missed that.
He said something, but then he went back to squaring the tiles. So, yeah, crazy game. That was just a lot of really difficult positions. I feel like Joey had him right where he wanted him, but yeah, that blank draw at the very end, and of course, sacks a tile is just a brutal beat for Joey, making a nice defensive play in Goxus to take away the snob hook and getting hit for 110 points in response. Got to feel for him a little bit, but in the end, it is another win for Nigel, moving up to 19-1, keeping Joey at 14.5, which means Nigel is 4.5 games up from his closest competitor in the standings. Astounding stuff, Jason, truly.
Yeah, I mean, it looked for all the world that Joey was in control of that game, was going to win that game. And now instead of 2.5 games back, he's 4.5 games back. And now this is starting to feel a little bit like a coronation, as opposed to, huge difference between being 2.5 games back and 4.5 games back.
Yeah, for sure. So that is just a stunner of a game. There have been a bunch, a lot of them that have gone Nigel's way. Of course, looking at his record, only one going against him. Question of who has beaten him. It is the defending champion, Jackson Smylie, that came out on top by 2 points in the previous round. Another absolute classic of a game that we got to see, Jason. It's been a pretty amazing day in the booth here.
It has most certainly been a lot of fun. So, do we need to take a pause to see what we're going to do next? Do we want to take a break, or?
I do, yeah. I think
Okay.
what we're going to do, so our plan going into this day was always to convert our morning Collins Division session into a WoW session to continue to follow Nigel and his incredible undefeated run through the field. Jackson managed to come out on top, but we really wanted to show you this extra game between Nigel and Joey Krafchick, his closest opponent in the standings. I do feel that I would love to, at least one time in our final game on the stream today, poke our head back into the Collins division. I know everybody wants as much Nigel as you can, but we've gotten 6 Nigel Richards games today. He is not going to go undefeated through this tournament and do the impossible. So we're going to take a break. We're going to evaluate what's going on in that division. I think we're going to finish off the day with the Collins division, but we will get back to you on that in just a couple minutes at round 21 at the 2025 World Cup. Welcome back, everybody. And for our last game of the day, round 21, we are going to dip our toes back into the Collins division and a fantastic matchup coming your way. Two countrymen, the old guard, I guess you could say. I hesitate to say that because he's not much older than me. Wellington Jighere, our former World Scrabble champion, against the relative youngster Enoch Nawali. A great matchup. These two have likely played. I know they actually, Jason Idalski, joining me for the fourth straight game. They just played a long match together in preparation for this tournament. I can only imagine how many games these two have played in their careers.
I can only imagine how many games these two can fit in a day as fast as both of them play. It was probably I have marathon sessions where we can fit in 16 in a day, but these guys could probably get to at least 25. Meanwhile, very interesting opening rec for Enoch here. There are no bingos, even in the Collins lexicon, which we are playing. So it seems like a choice between mu or Yeah, the exchange of M and the three O's has gone downhill as you sim this. So
yeah,
the problem with mu is it takes all those hooks and none of which you have. So maybe do you go for that reason?
Takes a bunch of hooks that you don't have as well. So you kind of have the same problem with both of those plays. I guess interesting question of where to place the word if you're going to play one of these. I'm sure that Enoch is grappling with that right now. Standard spot to play a 3-letter word is usually right here. But I'm wondering if slotting it somewhere here, if you play mu here, is that good because you keep the other M, and almost no matter what Wellington plays on top or below your play, you're going to have the M to re-overlap with a good play. Mam, mem, mim, mom, and mum. No, I am not speaking in tongues. I'm just listing out all the 3-letter words that contain 2 M's. So could be an interesting place to place the word, Jason.
Yeah, and especially with Wellington having the X there, I don't know. Doesn't look like there's really anything you can do that doesn't slot it, except for memo, which I don't think you're ever going to play drawing into 00 blank.
Yeah, makes sense. Wellington probably hoping that Enoch exchanges, which it looks like he exchanges just 00, keeping the 2 M's. Very interesting choice. I feel like when you do hit a bingo holding the 2 M's, maybe it scores a little bit better, but that is not your sort of garden variety choice to make on that move, Jason.
Yeah, that is very outside the box. And what do you think of that? I mean, I get that it's better than just putting 00 on the board, but I still feel like 00M or was better.
Yeah, and this is even more interesting. After an exchange 2, Wellington eschewing Oxland, which he clearly saw, for 44 points, and instead playing the much cagier Ox for only 18. That looks like a great adjustment to Enoch's short exchange, but man, that is a lot of points to give up. Admittedly, though, Jason, you are not putting all these fantastic tiles to play through, but I don't know. I feel like you still get a lot of bingos down on the board after just Ox. I think I would still have elected to take the points if I'm Wellington, but I think this is a play with merit.
I am basically 100% in agreement with you, where after an opponent, especially an opponent of Enoch's caliber exchanges too, I'm just assuming that the bingo is coming down. Now, you play Oxland, you feel dumb when, he plays a bingo to the D that would have been an orphan otherwise, like a rack that makes no 7s and doesn't make an 8 through the O or the X. But I think on the whole, I think all you're really doing is just costing yourself, 20 whatever points. Now I understand that, maybe it's double doubles through the L. Maybe you're giving his bingo a lot more points, but that seems, a little over defensive to me. But obviously Wellington, knowing, he's forgotten more about Scrabble than I will ever know, so I will cede to him on that. And meanwhile, Enoch does play the bingo with Momenta.
Yeah, a bunch of options there for the bingo, and this one is going to give back a counter to Wellington, either unelated, which he is getting set to play, he sees it instantaneously, or unannealed through the N of Momenta, that blank on the board being an N, of course. Wellington taking the higher scoring of the two. I think it makes total sense that he would do that. And we're off to the races as both players exchanging bingos after a very cagey start to the game of an exchange 2 and then ox. The bingos are flying, and we'll see if they continue to fly. Enoch's rack doesn't look like it's that close to another bingo, though, Jason.
And maybe that was part of the thought process behind Ox. Basically, no matter what Enoch does, the board is going to be open. There's going to be floaters. And if you draw into Leyden, maybe Wellington correctly predicted that after Ox, the two of them are probably just going to trade bingos, which is what happened.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Keeping that nice bingo lead that Wellington kept after Ox. But Enoch now, 2 O's, the G and the V. It seems like he is very, very likely to play Gov here, which does so many of the things that you want to do in this position. You want to use up at least 1 O, and you probably want to use up your V and G. This looks like just what the doctor ordered. Fully expect that to go down. It even sets up your S in multiple directions on a board where it already had one decent spot for it. Now you got 2. So looks great to me.
Yeah, it's only great because the L in unelated, he could not quite play Volost through it. Otherwise, he should have played Volost. But
true.
Yeah, I once played GOV in an NWL game, and so now I will never forget that GOV is the Collins only one, and VOG is the NWL one. But,
that has to be one of the more frequent phonies to be played. 3 phony 3s. Yeah,
and that's what I challenged it, and he's like, I don't know how you keep the word straight. I said, well, clearly I don't, since I just played GOV. So
yes, yeah. That's
meanwhile, Wellington also with a tricky rack of his own here.
Yeah, it looks like he's getting set to potentially play Valine through, or into, I should say, the E of unelated. Could play Viral in the same spot, leaving AN, using both of his eyes. I feel like that might be slightly superior unless there's a particular reason that he wants to keep the R. I think I would always rather shed the eyes. And is he going to reverse direction on us? No, he's going to play Valine, 26 points. Maybe a slight inaccuracy unless he's got a reason we're not thinking of, Jason. AN versus IR in the leave for the same score.
Yeah, especially because two A's on the board, no I. That would seem to point more in Viral's favor. This draw will be interesting. It'll be one of those that if he hits the bingo that he wouldn't have hit otherwise, then it's just another sign of Wellington's greatness. Meanwhile, Diglots for Enoch did just block Godlius, but Diglot's playing on either side of Mog there.
Yeah, this is interesting. Where to place this word? It's these tiny little nuanced decisions that are really kind of the soul of Scrabble at this level, and I feel like the players are going to be grappling with those quite a bit. I guess if you imagine Diglots on the board right here, you've got an I right underneath the double. Maybe you don't want to do this with the Q out, makes an easy spot, and indeed, it looks like Enoch is going to play it up high, where I feel like the risk of a power tile coming down from Wellington feels a little bit less. I feel like those two plays are as close as it gets, Jason, but I think I would favor this one. Also note the D out in space, higher on the board. A D further down on the board is much easier to bingo into for your opponent. Could also be a factor.
Yeah, good analysis right there. A lot like unelated. a lot more words are going to bingo to the D than from the D. So I agree with you that this is probably a slightly better placement.
So Wellington, as has been pointed out in the YouTube chat, has a bingo through the G, which feels like a tough one to spot if you're just anagramming. Some of these compound words can be difficult to come up with if they don't pop right into mind, especially because the word in question, showgirl, has an S at the beginning of the word. You would normally want to put that at the end. You might also be looking for, oh no, is he thinking about growlish? Maybe he's thinking, I know there's a word in those letters and I can't figure out what it is, so it must be growlish. That could be a big swing if he pulls the trigger on that. Not sure what else he could be considering here. Could be a big inflection point, Jason.
Yeah, could be a classic nut, but not growlish, but showgirl. And yeah, we've I'm sure you've been in that position too, where you write out the alphagram. You're like, I know there's an 8 in here. I've seen this rack. I know there's an 8 in here, but you just can't find it. And especially with the G being wide open there, like if there's something, it's almost certainly going to play. Now it looks like he's considering Rosh. I'm not sure where that would go.
I think the other letters are Wally. I think
he's looking at Wally down there.
Yeah, which has
among non-bingo options, Woe on top of Momenta, the WOAH spelling. Actually, it looks like a pretty good option, but it looks like World.
Whoa, what's he going for here? I'm not even sure.
World-ish, I guess, would be a plausible phony.
World-ish. He's put the W down. It looks like he's agonizing here. Yeah, look at that body language on his part. He clearly doesn't love this, or else it would probably be on the board already. World-ish would definitely get a challenge from Enoch, whose word knowledge is absolutely stellar. He has some of the best word knowledge you will see in the entire tournament, any division. Yeah, let's see. All right, we're going back to Wally. So Showgirl does escape Wellington's notice here. That is a bit of a big swing. It would have been nice for him to dump some of that clunk off the rack and score 82 points for the bingo. We'll see how much it costs him here going forward. I think it left you muted there, Jason.
Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's one way to remember Showgirl when he analyzes this game, either immediately after or next week sometime. Chin through the eye for Enoch, keeping a very nice leave, and now back to Wellington, who has unfortunately for him doubled his H's.
Yeah, the H, a tile that normally we welcome onto our rack. It's a nice, flexible scoring tile. It meshes very well with some other good bingo tiles like the S and the C, but any tile in a Scrabble context, in general, there are obviously going to be exceptions, but any tile usually doesn't benefit that much from duplication. So Wellington, already with an H in hand, probably doesn't want to see the other one there. But he should be able to score something with it. He has HOH set up. I'm not 100% sure. That is a valid Collins word. Not sure where he wants to play that. I guess it's possible he will play HOGH, hog. That is a valid word. Might look to play that. He would retain his S to play smog, but look at that. All the S's are present and accounted for. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's definitely a lot going on here. And Enoch probably looking to play Fearless or Fresia's. It looks like Enoch is right on the cusp of bingoing again. But is this play going to block everything, Jason? Mike again. Let me see here.
Yeah, I don't see anything through the O or the
Oh,
D.
it still fits. Look at that.
Oh, just now it's just 4 overlaps.
Amazing. It still
3 overlaps.
fits. I didn't see that. And fearless even fits on the other side, actually. Both of those words still fit. Fearless and Fresia's. So
I
that
think
is
fearless is
the
probably a little bit better. I don't know if you want to be throwing the F in the triple lane for 1 extra point. But
true. Yeah, I feel like maybe just a matter of being thankful that one of the two still fits, right? If I'm in Enoch's shoes there, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, thank goodness I can still play Fresia's. I'm sure the other one doesn't still fit. It's almost
yeah,
impossible to imagine that both of your bingos even still fit. But there they do. And what?
yeah. Is Corbina's the only playable?
Let's see. It looks like it may
I
well
feel like
be.
it is, and fearless would have blocked it.
Wow, crazy. So fearless, probably better positionally to avoid putting an F in a triple lane, but in fact, it would have worked better in this weird specific case of blocking Corbina's. But Enoch is going to come right back with another bingo, I believe, of Gurdwara, which is unbelievable. The word knowledge on display right here is very, very impressive. And look, it's just coming down instantaneously. That's the only available bingo for Enoch. And
Wellington
down
has
it goes.
an insane find that fast, but Wellington has Rufia through the F.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a way to, he's going to score a bunch out of a terrible, terrible rack.
Yeah, so if I'm in Wellington's shoes, I might just look at this G and play Jighere. You can actually play Yugarie, but he has the patience to look through that F and he sees it. This is another, the words are flying here in this game pretty fast. I guess we're going to get a nice early dinner at this rate, Jason.
Well, I think we kind of knew that was going to happen with Enoch and Wellington, regardless. But yeah, it's been a long tournament for you anchoring the whole way. So appreciate you housing all this coverage on your channel and taking the lead for every single round.
I mean, it's a coup for me. We have an amazing staff behind the scenes doing the lion's share of the work. I just get to sit in the chair where I'm told and talk about the Scrabble games that I'm watching. This is a pretty easy gig as far as I'm concerned. I'm making out like a bandit here. So it's all good. Enoch with an F now on his rack. This is kind of interesting because this looks like easily the best scoring spot for Enoch, but I would want to cover this spot too if I could. I guess this one is dangerous enough that, yeah, you just got to take your 40 odd points, hope that Wellington doesn't have anything big through this G, and you're going to be just fine. Is there even anything palatable? Would you ever play potage through this G just to prevent the worst case scenario? I don't know. I mean, this is a pretty bad scenario. As you can see, Wellington has Kier, which is going to score a boatload of points, making Elk. Tough call, but I think just plopping your F down is good, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you ever feel uncomfortable with an 81-point lead? You're playing Wellington and the board is this wide open. That's how.
Just don't play Zoa. Just don't play Zoa. No Zoa. You're good.
So yeah, ended up blocking here, but certainly seemed to be the right play regardless. Obviously difficult to keep that G open. I don't know if he's got anything better than Geeky. It looks like that's what he wants to do, and that was certainly what I saw at first glance. But yeah, Kier would have been really bad for Enoch, whereas he can survive Geeky.
Yeah, Geeky should come down. Wellington definitely in huge trouble overall in this game, as Enoch playing a slew of bingos, Momenta, Diglots, Fresias, and Gurdwara, 4 of them, if we're counting, which we are. So just off to the races from the jump in this game for him. But he's going to have to slow down with OOIII on his rack. So is it possible that Wellington can take advantage of that with a great draw here? That's what he needs. He does have Enteron now on his rack. I'm not 100% sure I see an immediate spot where that's going to play. Picot, I'm not sure how to say, goes down into the, looks like I entered feta instead of feet. So I got to fix that real quick. Feet, geeky, and picket. This looks like a good block, I suppose, although there are no S's left. So there actually isn't a major threat in the form of like feet going down. But I guess the actual threat was this line under the A of Gurdwara, Jason. That might be what he's thinking to block.
Yeah, I thought it was a little interesting, feet versus feta. I guess it's, probably pretty, pretty negligible. Feet does allow like extensions, featured, if we do have featured available in the pool. Stuff like that. I'm sure there was a reason for it. I'm just not quite sure. Not quite sure what it was. Meanwhile, like you say, the Entron Tanner has no home, so Wellington down 100, and Will, how do you see Wellington keeping his winning hopes alive here?
It does seem like it's going to be tough. And I was a little slow on the uptake, maybe a little blank blindness here. But yeah, Wellington was getting set to play his 7-letter word here. So Enoch's block was very timely in that regard, stopping him from getting that bingo down. That gets him so much closer in the game. As it is, though, if you're looking around the board, if I'm Wellington, I know that this spot of the bottom of the board is where all the bingo action is going to be. I would love to open something somewhere higher up on the board, but just there are so few spots where 7 tiles can even play at the top of the board. You're literally looking at just like through the R with an insane number of overlaps. That's it. Other than that, the action is all on the bottom. So I guess I really don't even know what you're supposed to do if you're Wellington, because you can't really productively open more space here. You do run the risk as soon as this tile gets used up. If you were to play something like cone, if you're Wellington, and try to draw the last D from the bag, a play down from this A, it would yield bingos back, but those bingos would score nothing in response. So it's going to be very easy, no matter what Wellington does, for Enoch to potentially score well and just shut everything down. So very grim scenario. I guess what you would point to for Wellington would be a different game had he played Showgirl.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, if Wellington does play something on the right side of the board, trying to open it up, Enoch has kibitz for 80 from that K. So yeah, this could be game over pretty quick right here, even if he plays down from the A. But yeah, it's got to be so frustrating to look at the top of the board, and I think you noticed it before I did, that you can't even open anything up there. There's just no way to put 7 tiles down in a row. So close to having Entron fit off of Rufia, but that Q in Chin kind of gets in the way. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do here either, and the fact that Wellington is taking so long on this turn means that he is trying to figure out how to keep his winning chances alive. Quackless was given something like a 3-4% chance with the top plays here, and that seems incredibly high with the sport configuration.
Yeah, that seems ambitious, which says a lot when we're talking about 3% win feeling ambitious. That's how you know you're in bad shape. But overall, Wellington is still doing very well in the tournament. If we consider the full standings of the Collins division, we have spent a lot of time over in NWL today. But going into this round, Wellington is in 3rd place at 14-6, behind David Whitley, also at 14, but with better spread, and Josh Castellano, 15-5 atop the standings. And those 3 are actually a couple games ahead of their next closest competitors. So it's going to take a bit of an effort for anybody further down in the standings, that includes Enoch Nwali, if they want to overtake those 3 going forward. But that is why we play 31 rounds, Jason. Still a whole bunch of Scrabble to go.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting finish, and in CSW, and something tells me that that you'll be spending a lot of time, streaming that for the rest of the tournament. Great field with Josh and Wellington and Alex Seaholm, former North American champion, up there as well.
Yeah, you just look at the list and it's kind of crazy to really survey it. You've got people like Dave Wiegand as well, Josh Sokol, Rob Rabinski, a fantastic player, former world champion, Joel Wapnick, 12-time Pakistani champion, Wasim Khatri in 17th place, defending champion Edakaro in 22nd place. We're really getting into some crazy stuff here. Ben Schoenbrunn in second to last in this division, somebody that has won the World Cup before. That he must be drawing insanely bad to justify that. Not to put him on blast. Sorry, Ben. One of my best friends in Scrabble. But yeah, that is insane to see. So it's a pretty stacked deck over there in both of the top divisions, frankly. So yeah, what can you say when you got all those players in one place? Somebody has to lose the games, and if you don't draw the stuff to work with, or if you aren't on your absolute A game, it could easily be you, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, well said. When you put that many world-class players in a field, like, somebody's got to lose, and it seems that I think Ben actually said that he's not playing that terribly. Just just having one of those tournaments that we've all had. What's your tournament like that, Will? Have you
A disaster tournament?
Yeah, is there one that comes to mind? Or?
So the weird thing for me over the last few years is it's actually been an extremely long time, 5 or 6 years. I know that's inflated a little bit by the social distancing era where we were not playing in tournaments. But if I'm gonna tell my sob story, I'm going to inflate that number as much as I want. And it's been like 5 or 6 years since I won a multi-day Scrabble tournament. But in that span, I've come in second and third and fourth. Like, I've had very few outright tank tournaments. So this is like that classic, situation of, like, in pro sports, you get asked, would you rather win the Super Bowl and have your team be terrible for 10 years, or would you rather be consistently good for a while but never win? And some people have different opinions about that. Wellington playing Tenon here. What an interesting choice. I'm not sure what he's thinking about. We can try to suss that out. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I had a total disaster tournament, but it's also been a while since I actually hoisted a trophy of any kind, Jason. So there you have it.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with Ben having such a bad week, it feels like, Ben either wins it or finishes in the bottom half. I know he struggled in Albany as well. Again, Ben is a great player and more a function of the tiles, but you are kind of the opposite of that, where you're just consistently coming in second and third. You just need to mid out your luck a little bit differently. If only it was that easy to request that.
Yeah, I agree. So Enoch not playing Kibitz, this has to be a miss, I can't imagine. So that's a reasonable, a play to miss. Not the easiest word to generate if you're not even thinking about looking at that K at the base of the board. And probably Enoch is also thinking, oh, I'd rather not empty the bag and get bingoed out on. So you're thinking about what plays can I find that are only a couple of tiles, and Zoes, which is his play, definitely fits the bill. But yeah, Kibitz for 80 plus would have been preferred there. But it's all good. Enoch's going to win handily here, almost no matter what. Could we somehow see the newly added Baiju? It's unseen to Wellington. That would kind of be fun to see. Baiju. I don't think it's going to fit anywhere. That would be cool to see.
Yeah, I was going to say Peter is actually very close to fitting with 5 underlaps. It would make ATEETNE. Just the problem is the POR and the INE. So I did wonder if that's what he was maybe trying to do there, trying to set really hard to make a 4, or 5 tile overlap there. So not exactly sure what he was going for. Maybe just trying to stay within hailing distance and give himself that 4 overlap option, plus potentially something from the K or Y. A little surprised that Enoch missed Kibitz. Not totally stunned. It's one of those, I like to say it's a word, like we know it because we use it in conversation. But if you don't use it in conversation that much, I would assume that Enoch has studied all the Z6s. But something that's certainly understandable to miss given the circumstances. If it's not a word that you use perhaps as commonly in conversation as you or I would.
Yeah, definitely an element of subjectivity to what counts as a word for people. I do feel like kibitz is right on that line of I would typically expect people to know that word, especially because our old favorite, the Internet Scrabble Club, ISC, uses it as a key term of what to do when you're spectating a game. For the record, nobody should be using that website. Definitely Woogles.io. If you're out there still using Internet Scrabble Club, please migrate yourself on over to Woogles.io.
Enoch's also too young. Enoch's too young to remember ISC.
But no slight. Let me just say, if you are on ISC playing Scrabble, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for playing Scrabble. I didn't mean to be rude, but just give it a shot. Just give Woogles a shot. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, Wellington, 1 in the bag. What can he possibly do? Would he end up playing Pop or something, knowing that it's going to be difficult to block that? Oh, and wow, literally as I say it, he's going to do it. What is he even going to pick, though? If he draws an I, does that even give anything? I'm not sure if he actually has that much that he can hit here, Jason.
Yeah, I'm looking at it myself. Maybe something from the K or the Y.
Yeah, I think right. I think oddly, fishing the E might be the way to go, so that you could play Tepid or somewhere. That doesn't feel great either, and it's very easy to block. The thing about Pop that's nice is that you've got all the last E's as a hook. There are no hooks that Enoch could have here, but that doesn't matter if you can't actually draw into a word that plays there. So yeah, tough one. And ultimately it is very academic as well, because we know that Wellington is going to draw the J, which is not typically good for your bingo chances when you do that. So yeah, good on him to try as hard as he can to come up with a way to cut the spread here. But the J is coming for him, and that's going to be that.
I mean, I guess if he does end up playing off the P, then he draws the J and he can play Jighere there, but it's not going to be enough to win, but it at least will cut some spread here. Or at least force Enoch to block it, which he should be able to do.
That's a good point. That is a good point. So could be the best he can hope for. Sometimes you're not necessarily going to go for the bingo, but just for whatever the best scoring play that you can manufacture might be. Now Wellington has deep lined up on the rack. Not even sure. Is that going to just play up here potentially? I give him credit for using his time here. This is the last game of day 3. I think it's definitely worth noting that stamina starts to be a factor for most of us, but Wellington famously training for Scrabble for many years to be able to withstand fatigue and play his best no matter what. That was the story as I attempted to tell in one of my favorite videos I've ever made about Scrabble in Nigeria. Wellington training by playing 24 hours of chess before starting his Scrabble preparations to get ready for the World Championship. That is dedication that few could rival.
Yeah, as an aside, it is... he's going to go depth there, but as an aside, it is somewhat disappointing to me anyway that your mini documentary on Nigeria I think only has like 40,000 views. You put a lot of time and effort into that, and it's a really good look. So if you have not seen that yet, people in chat, watch it tonight, save it on your to watch later playlist, and give it a watch, because I predict you will not be disappointed.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't necessarily view view count as my metric of success for that video. I would say what I feel is that all of the players from Nigeria and the African continent more broadly, the reaction they had to that video makes me feel like it was a smashing success, no matter what the view count was. So I feel very good about it regardless. And yeah, it was a fair amount of work for sure. I would love to do other videos like that about some of the other great Scrabble playing cultures in the world. Thailand, Pakistan. I hesitate to say North America because that would be a bit of a mess of a video right now, but who knows? Maybe I would tackle that subject at some point. So Wellington playing Depp, drawing the J, and Enoch playing Dewey to try to save Tibia on his rack. Nice idea. So I'm not sure where else Tibia plays than the top of the board, but seems like a nice thought.
It plays off of Dewey, making do it.
Oh, even better. So 2 outs, 1, 2, nice call. So that's a nice, for some reason, that's not the optimal sequence according to the engine, but it looks quite nice to me.
I was going to say, what other out and 2 is better with an A, 3 eyes, and a U?
Yeah, let's see. What is the engine saying? It's saying that playing Kuia, Kuia, would have been better. I'll try to figure out why that is. It's because I know why. It stops this. Yeah, it's just much better against the J. It would force Wellington to take way fewer points from the J, and saves you bit on your next turn. So as it is, the sequence was Dewey, Jure, and Tibia at the base of the board. So let me just get that all entered in so that we can see the final score. It was a correct play by both players. Final score, Enoch Nwali, 485, Wellington Jighere, 394. So a tough end to the day for Welly and a good one for Enoch, but pretty slugfest like game here for the players. A lot of bingos. Maybe the decisive situation of Showgirl not being spotted by Wellington in the mid game, and no such issue for Enoch as he nailed everything that he had to.
Yeah, very well played game from Enoch, and something tells me, do I want to listen to this? I feel like Wellington is probably looking up and seeing that he missed Showgirl.
Yeah, maybe that body language suggests that he's saying, "Oh,
I played this one, but I said it didn't look like." Showgirl. Showgirl. When I played this, Showgirl. Yeah, I didn't do that. Let's move. I had Oxland leaving E. Would you play it?
I'll play it.
Oxland. Well, I played this one leaving Landy.
No, I'll play it. Because
No, I consider that it changed. I consider it's not being good.
I mean, you have my bingo score, right?
What about it? The fact that it changed was what influenced my going shots. I missed something at that point.
Yeah, risky bit.
Is it?
Risky bit.
Oh, you missed it. I think there's pizza.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the players realizing a couple missed opportunities, but overall, very well played game, as you would expect between these two extremely high level players, especially in round 21, the final game of 3 full days of play. And they've got another full day coming their way tomorrow, Jason. So they better rest up, get something good to eat here.
Yeah, just noticed they kind of went over Oxland versus Ox, so Wellington did see Ox, but Oxland would have actually given Immolate, I think, as a double. So maybe kind of justifying Wellington's decision to play short with Ox in response to the exchange too. Yeah, good game on the whole. Obviously Wellington looking up that Growlish rack, I feel like he probably had a sense that there was something in there that he wasn't seeing, and that was the first thing he was going to look at, and he'll remember Showgirl from now on.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just funny that the way that works, right? Like he probably had some neuron somewhere buried deep in his brain of maybe guessing Growlish on some kind of anagramming quiz at some point, but couldn't quite connect it to the real world, the real word in there. Excuse me. So yeah, tough one. It happens to the best of us, except maybe not the very best of us, as I know we're speculating in the chat what happened in his final game with Nigel Richards, of course, who we watched for the vast majority of the day. I'm not seeing the result just yet. He sits at 19-1 going into his final game of the day with Ori Swift, certainly a very strong opponent. But if Nigel wins that game, he'll move his record up to 20-1 through 3 games of play. Just mind-boggling stuff, Jason. I'm sure we're going to get a chance to catch up with his progress tomorrow and see if he can bring it home early.
Yeah, and if he wins this game, not just 20-1, but 20-1 with the loss being by 2 points. Jackson had literally one, winning play in the Endgame and found it. So, can't exactly complain too much about that.
Yeah, single play away from a perfect record in an extremely difficult field with multiple champion level players. I wish I could say I were that surprised. I'm a little surprised, but yeah, we have to temper it a bit with the resume that he's put together. So that's going to be it for us today. Jason, thank you so much for joining me in the booth this afternoon. It's been a real treat. We got to watch some absolutely legendary games from the WoW division and a really fun one to kick off from Collins. Appreciate you hopping aboard. Any final thoughts from you before we sign off for day 3?
Appreciate you having me. Thanks to chat for being so awesome, and yeah, it'll be a really fun finish to this tournament to see a little bit more of Nigel's brilliance, see if he can be Gibsonized, and then to see how this stacked CSW division breaks out.
Very true. Very excited on both counts for that. So with that does it for day 3. We will have one more full day coming your way tomorrow, and then a half day where everything is going to be decided. A lot of money at stake. Haven't really talked about that, but $40,000 coming into the prize pools across both divisions, courtesy of the Carter Chapman Shreve Foundation and from Word Game Players Organization, WGPO. You can learn more about this organization at wordgameplayers.org, and the event, of course, being brought to you in partnership with the Collins Coalition, cocoscrabble.org. 2 amazing organizations doing a huge amount of work behind the scenes here to bring this event to you. So I want to make sure we get those plugs in and not neglect that before we sign off. So with that, that's going to do it for us. For Jason Adalski, I am Will Anderson. I'll be coming your way tomorrow for 7 more games. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope to see you tomorrow.